I'm going to find some today to use as examples. I'm going to go over them just like I do in class. Okay. I'm reversing how I think I told you guys yesterday, but I'm reversing how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the deep dive videos into what we want to talk. Like I started doing the one for Skylar about the foreshortened heads and all that. But then I realized it's like, well, I just want to riff on head construction. I'll probably do hair. I'll do stylization. I'll do, so like when you guys give me one thing, it tends to make me go, okay, yeah, I'll cover that, but I'm also going to just talk about head construction and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to start making it super anatomical because I feel like that's a different thing, but I am going to speak a little bit to that because I'm using those landmarks and everything, just so you know. And then I'm also going to speak a lot to breaking, well, just like we always do, speak a lot to breaking down form and how I sort of construct those things and how we kind of see them as basic shapes and all that kind of stuff. And especially with the head, you know, turning the head and all that stuff, I'm kind of starting with like, here's a basic way to just see that idea and kind of think about that idea. And and then I'll, you know, I might go and do a second half of it and go, okay, I'm going to make this a little more anatomical or whatever. And then I'm going to go the other way and start doing some videos on stylization. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to, hey, Susie, do you go by Susie or Susan?
Either.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Fine.
Okay. So a couple of people, Susan included, we were talking about the landscape thing. So I think I told you yesterday, I'm going to go do a virtual field trip. Okay. And I'll do that on location and talk about it just like I would if we were there. Okay. One advantage up here is it's a ghost town up here and I got all this like landscape to myself, which is kind of cool. What else? Questions? No questions? Everybody's drawing good?
No.
Yeah.
How to construct the head. Jesus, that's hard.
Okay, that's what I'm going to put up first. So I was just talking about, I just started doing that yesterday. And I had it finished, but then I'm going through it and editing and going, I might redo this little part and that little part. The good thing is like that stuff that I'm doing, I'm pretty much set up for the most part. Like I keep having to come down here because I get good Wi-Fi down here. Because here in the great ration of 2020, I can't go and buy electronic goods, which sucks. I need a Wi-Fi booster upstairs. So I'm actually working up there when I do videos and stuff. So all my mics and all that are up there. But that's the first one I did. Is it started with Skylar's turning the head thing. And then I just started going, well, I'll do a thing about constructing the head. I'll probably just go down the rabbit hole on that. Some of them will probably get long. You can scrub through them. That's fine. I don't like to cut them because there's just always that leap in what you did. And then you go, well, I don't know what you did from there to there. So I just tend to leave them. If there's a cut in it, you're not missing anything. I just probably went and made a sandwich or something and came back or whatever, okay? Or I have to edit it together so it makes sense. So I'm editing that one now, and I'm like, I was gonna actually put it up yesterday, but then I go, I wanna tweak it. And then I'll get into my groove on that, and I'll probably be just doing a ton of them. So what I need during the week from you guys is to make sure that you guys are, you know, asking me questions and stuff like that and giving me more stuff. Like somebody said the stuff about, you know, figures holding stuff. Like I'm going to get into all that stuff, but I'll probably expand out on it probably too, just like the head drawing things. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then the second part of the head drawing thing will probably be stylization. So I might just go on and riff on like I was looking at that, shoot, what's it called? Earth World website. We talked about that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The one with all the state fair pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, I really like that website. I was looking at the other day, and it's just like there's so many fun people to draw in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've been pulling those, so I'm probably going to take some of those and go, let's just riff off of this face. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always, and then I'll talk a little bit about caricature and things like that. Caricature to me is, I don't like the word caricature that much because when I say caricature, I tend to think of those state fair carnival kind of things. I can't stand that stuff. But caricature to me is more about stylization, it's about design. And I think caricature is a really good way to study design. When Steven Silver was out, whatever it was last year or whatever, he was bringing that up a lot because he actually came out of that. And I think that's a really good idea, that caricature is a really hard design and drawing problem because you have to solve both. but you've got to simplify and amplify certain things in somebody's features. That's a tough design trick. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to go through some of these just like if we were in class. All that makes sense?
Yep. Yeah.
So far, yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at, so how's everybody doing with people sketching?
Just going on the websites and
All
drawing.
my headphones just
Yeah.
crapped out. Sorry.
You what? Okay, I want to look through here. Susie posted a nice one yesterday. That was every kid, wasn't it, Susie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice one.
Thank you.
Is that a, well, this is a nice one. Is that a breakthrough drawing for you?
Well, you know, it was easier to draw him than the tennis players, obviously, from those tennis player sketches, because his motion was limited. You know, he was sitting at a desk looking at monitors and he was shifting around, but he was in positions long enough where I could capture him, and plus he's my son, so I know his features.
The thing with that I used to do with to that point, see, that gives me another idea to do something about people in motion. The thing about that likeness idea where you said you kind of understand his, you know, what he looks like basically, right? When I used to do that stuff for NPR, I'd be chasing people around the sketchbook literally. And they don't care that I'm there, okay? Which I liked, because I don't want them to care that I'm there. And one of the things I do, hang on, let me answer this. One of the things I would do is I would spend the first, I don't know, maybe hour, just trying to get warmed up, okay? Because everything has to happen at hyper speed in that situation. And then I would spend that hour, whatever, whoever it was. Like one time I followed Wendy Gruhl around, and like Mark Ridley Thomas would show, that's when she was running for mayor. Mark Ridley Thomas would show up, you know, people who are known, right? And I would spend a little bit of time figuring out sort of just the basic, I draw them sort of straight and just try and figure out this construction of their heads for likeness a little bit.
Okay.
And sometimes you're going to miss it when you're doing that fast, who cares? But it would really help me because they'd be like maybe talking to other people, and then they might kind of turn or whatever, and I could turn their head a little bit, even if I wasn't seeing the pose, or I could kind of finish the pose I had out of my head because I kind of now knew, and I could even refer back to one of my drawings and go, oh, that's how their face works. Because it's no different than like it's a little more subtle, but it's no different than like a car model where, you know, you figure out what a Mustang looks like, a 65 Mustang, and you understand that shape language. It's kind of the same thing, you know what I mean? So you're trying to break it. That's why I'm always saying like break down this form all the time. Because I'm sitting in this really low chair, which bugs me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So one of the things, it'll be in that video actually. There's like, everybody will find their own, but I have certain key landmarks that I look for when I'm doing that. And one of them is the tilt of the nose. Like if their nose comes, the bottom of their nose comes straight out, if it dips or it tips up, right?
Okay.
So I tend to throw that bottom of the line of the nose, the angle. The other one I look at is like the Filson or whatever it's called right here. Does it bow out? Does it cave in, or does it go straight down? Right? Where does and I'll put all this in that video. And then where does the Filson or whatever it's called meet the nose, right? So I'm looking, you know, here's the bottom of the nose. Where does that meet? You know what I mean? And you can't, you know, there's guidelines for that. Like I was talking on the video I'm going to put up next. I was talking about the proportions of the head, and in the video I go, just go find the proportions of the head, because that's the head drawing thing, and I'm not doing a head drawing class. I'm showing you how to draw a head. I know that sounds weird, but I don't want to go down portrait drawing. Does that make sense? And you can go online and just go proportions of the head. You'll find 1,000 of them, and basically it's this, right? This top to bottom, cut it in half. There's your eyes. Cut eyes to the chin in half. There's the bottom of the nose, and then it's like a third down or whatever it is, okay? But I don't need to go into all those because you can just look them up, okay? And then turn the head and all that kind of stuff. And then in that video, I'm talking about turning it. But that's going to lead me down a rabbit hole of, and I might start breaking them up. and I might not, I don't know. Talking about how we define hair, which we'll talk about a little bit today, all that kind of stuff. And so I need you guys to keep talking to me and feeding me stuff, because I'm going to probably, now that I feel like I'm up and running with all my classes, like this week was the last one that was the first class, I'm starting to get into a groove a little bit. My main problem now is managing my time, because I have no time. Okay. So I'm trying to cram all this stuff in, but I think it's going to get a little smoother, because in some of my classes, you know, I don't have to do as much prep. I just go in and do the demo and blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense? Now this should be, let me double check this. I want to double check that my, that this is capturing my, so what I think, okay, so here's another thing real quick. If we get kicked out of here today, which I don't think we will, because I updated the information on this. If we do though, just jump back into the room. I'll just jump right back into it, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Mike, you said it kicks us out in 30-minute increments if you didn't
No,
update
it did at 40, but it shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I just want to make sure it's it is recording this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's another thing, is I was having trouble with audio with recording off Zoom, and I think I've got that fixed now. So what I'm doing now is I'm just having it automatically record a whole meeting. I will take that right after the meeting. I'll edit it and I'll throw it up online. So you don't have to really take notes or anything, because that'll be up online. Okay.
Okay.
And then anything that we come out of this meeting with that we're going, okay, you know, when deep dive into that, I'll do a video on it. Okay. It's good for me because I think I told you guys this, I'm super OCD, and I like the idea of OCDing out about stuff, because I just do that anyway. I woke up yesterday at like 5 in the morning with like total monkey brain about class, and I can't sleep. And then today, of course, I have to get up early, and then I don't want to get up today. It never works out the right way. All right. What problems has everybody been having in relation to people sketching?
For one of my drawings, I was having trouble drawing like one of the guy's texture of his beard, because it wasn't like it came off like smooth, but then he had more like a straggly more hair texture. So I wasn't sure. I didn't want to overdo it without making it look too like it's too much.
Okay, that's where
there's like clumps. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're doing this stuff, well, that's where this comes in. That's why you always hear me say graphic shapes and things like that.
Right.
You have to interpret. You have to interpret that graphically, obviously, and then I'll go into some of that today. You guys got to realize too that I just came in, so it takes me about, I don't know, a half hour for my hands to sort of get warmed up, and then I'll talk a little more about that stuff, because I have to have my hands warmed up, okay, or my brain warmed up. So let me find a couple of, what else? What other problems?
Getting the people to look like the people that you're drawing.
Okay, that's a thing that I'm going to go over a little more later. Right now, I want to get you guys started on just doing what we're doing, okay? And that is not worrying so much about a likeness yet. It's what was I going to say? It's not so much worrying about likeness, it's worrying about capturing, you know, a human, basically, okay? It's one of those walk before you can run things. In my digital drawing class, I get a lot of that where people, they want to, I want to do character design, and I assign them people breakdowns, kind of like what we're doing a little bit, and they basically don't do it, and then they want to jump into character design, which I find really annoying. Okay, I don't like that. I'm trying to do this in a way, I think our program is trying to do this in a way where you guys are learning fundamentals and building blocks and building on it, okay? And it's the reason that top tier schools like Art Center and things like that have such a high success rate, is because, you know, the first half of your education there, you know, you're going, you know, you walk in there and you're looking at all this crazy stuff that people are doing. You go, I want to do that. And they're like, you're not doing any of that until you learn this, until you learn all your foundational stuff. Then you can do that. Because if you try and do that right now, you'll fail. That's way too big a leap. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it's, you have to learn, to have that, that discipline, man. It's like, it's such an important factor here. If you don't have discipline, and also, you know, I just had somebody in another class, I just told them 111 by 17 inch sheet, you know, fill it up, small thumbnails, iterate ideas for character stuff. And the first thing I get in the meeting is like a bunch of excuses why he didn't do that, which I don't care about. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, if I have to force you to draw, you don't like this very much, you know, and you want to do it for a career, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, if I have to go around and force you to draw, and you don't want to do this for a career, man, because it'd be drawing all day, you know, especially back in the 2D days of animation. I taught in a 2D program, and there was a lot of those kids where you had to make them draw, and you go, man, do you realize that they measure your drawings back then by feet? Like somebody does 30 feet of drawings in a week or something. I mean, there's a lot of drawing, you know? All right, I'm going to pull some of these up. What else? What other problems?
Different textures of hair.
Okay, I'm going to do a whole hair thing.
Mhm.
As a video. So it'll be part of this first, oh, that one's a cool one. What's this? Is Jesse Knox in here?
Yeah, I'm in here.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't have my video on. Is that okay?
What do you mean?
Does it
Oh,
matter?
no, I don't care.
Okay. And I also am struggling with making kind of like their expressions match up with what they're actually doing in the picture.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
another
they're
thing.
squinting, like then I do the eyebrows and it looks like they're angry. And
Yeah. Well, you know what's weird about that is that a lot of times with that kind of stuff, and we'll see this as we move on, it's, and this happens a lot just with drawing in general or design or whatever. Okay. Hang on a sec. You'll think it's, like I've seen people do this. I might have mentioned this in class where somebody's like working on something, or it's happened to me where I'm working on something, and I'm trying to fix it, quote unquote, fix it. And I keep going, here's the problem. And then like the art director or somebody comes over and goes, you should move that tree back there over there. And you go, okay. And you move it over there and it solves your whole problem. You didn't know it was the tree back there. You thought it was this thing over here. And it's the same thing with like the face, expressions. You have to start, it's a combination of things. You got to start also abstracting that graphically and going like, you know, what's going to create that expression with the smallest amount of work, if that makes any sense. Like one of the ones that I always use when people are smiling is that dark little space behind there, and it defines the teeth without me really doing anything. And I'm not putting anything there. Just that thing of defining the end of the teeth makes it look like teeth. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we got to kind of learn a few of those things, and we'll probably get some of them today. And by the way, we go now, because these classes are now basically modular. So we'll go, you know, however long we go today. Because I really don't think you can do a 6-hour class online completely. So I'm looking at the, let me switch my screen. So what else? Any other questions or problems?
I think it's really weird when trying to draw and you can see the nostrils on the person. I feel like that flattens their nose out.
Well, okay, so one of the things, so let's look at, I want to put a drawing layer over this. I'm going to go through a couple of these. I get what you're saying. Now, one thing that's interesting is you can definitely overdo things to that point, okay, where you overdo nostrils or you overdo teeth. Like when you show every tooth, it starts to look like corn teeth. That's a good one. That's a really good one. What's that from? Photo?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like it flattened his nose.
It's what? Show it to me again. I don't know. That one doesn't really bother me. You know what I'd probably do with that is I'd probably, instead of them being such a hard, dark shape, I might vary them a little bit, maybe where an edge is a little bit softer, just that kind of thing. So they're not a hard graphic shape, okay? Because we have to balance that stuff off, hard shapes against soft shapes, okay? Or how we, you don't want to overemphasize anything really, okay?
Okay.
Let me switch this. Everybody can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're seeing this drawing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the reason I'm picking this is it's got some pretty good bones in it. So let's just, I'm gonna knock this down a little bit. Okay, so we have this sort of shape here, cheek mass, a little bit of the ear there. Okay, so these, like when you're building glasses, you can kind of think of them, you can really break them down simply, okay? Sometimes even if I don't see that little bit of the, what's that part called? The little part goes over your ear. If I don't see that, I'll add it anyway. So if I'm doing this from life, I'm gonna come in here and just pop this stuff in. Now, the nose here is gonna probably have a little bit more of a ball on it, sort of like that. I'm gonna de-emphasize that a little bit. And I'm trying to get a little bit, okay, so here's the other thing with lips. Usually with lips, you don't wanna kind of do, now I'm not talking about, there's different ways of styling things, okay? So I'm not saying that, what I want you guys to understand, I'm trying to show you stuff from a fundamental perspective. I'm not going, I don't want, it's not a stylistic thing right now. There's a lot of ways to handle this stylistically. And I'm gonna say, you know, when you're doing lips like this, you're outlining them, it doesn't really work that well. Now you can go find me 1,000 examples where it does. That's a stylization thing and that's fine. What I'm trying to do is just get away from these kind of comic book tropes and illustration tropes and all that kind of stuff and just look at how things work. Does that make sense? Then how you stylize them is up to you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't usually outline that because what usually happens with the lips is you have a shelf kind of thing. So if it's side view, let's say the lip, here's the upper lip and here's the bottom lip. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the light's usually coming from above. So this is basically a shelf hanging over the next one. So that means this is down facing, it's gonna go into shadow, okay? And then this one is up facing and it's gonna catch light, but this shelf is gonna cast shadow over this part. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what I can do is take advantage of that here. I think that mouth is a little high. And I can just put maybe that top lip into shadow and then get a little bit of a cast shadow under here. This is a little too harsh. I'm going to soften that up. Now, another thing, you'll see this a lot with life drawings where people will do like, here's a head, we'll go into a shoulder, and then this might be very sharp where they sort of turn these corners. You know what I'm talking about? You got to go back in, you know, at some point. These are really good ways to find landmarks where like the deltoid, and I'll go, okay, that's where it dips and goes into the bicep or whatever, okay? But I got to go in later. That helps me find my form. But then I have to go in later and I have to soften those things up and make it feel a little more human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm doing the same thing here, plus I'm not warmed up. And then beard. Now, when we're doing this, when I start this stuff, I just do what I'm doing right now, which is I just map it. So I might go, and then I'm going to map this beard. And I might map them out more like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then from this angle, I might be able to see a little bit of the other ear and cover some of that. I'm going to have this beard connect here. Then let's get this a little more structured right here. Now I have, Jesse,
Yes.
was he wearing sunglasses? Because I don't see his eyes.
Yeah, he was wearing sunglasses and his face was like kind of scrunched up where it's a little, that's why I kind of tried to do his mouth higher because it looked like he was looking into the sun.
Oh,
Do you want the original photo?
yeah.
Okay, let me find it.
But do you see how we're starting to map him out? You guys?
Yeah, starting to see it.
Yeah.
So right now he doesn't have a whole lot of soft edges or any of that kind of stuff. Light's coming from above. We got to soften edges here. And I'm going to do sort of, now what am I doing? I'm doing the same kind of thing we did with trees where we do that mass and then dark, right? Now, I would have to put some of that up here and dance around the texture, but I can put sort of a line in the sand right there and then, and by the way, with the pen I'm using today and I'm doing this digital thing, it's sort of how we would work with an ink pen, okay? Hey, Jesse, you uploading that?
Yeah, I just sent it. Let me know if that worked in the chat box.
Oh, okay, good. Wait, I don't know if I can get to the chat line anyway. I don't think it lets me, what is it? It's weird. I don't see a thing for the chat room when I share my screen. You know what? Dump it in the, you know the folder I gave you guys as a link?
Yeah, put it in
Dump
there.
it in that folder, but not in the people folder, just the one, the big link it takes you to with the big folder. That way it'll sit there by itself and I can grab it. Where'd you get the picture from? Okay, I want to
I
wait
think
till
it was from Earth Worlds or
Oh, it
Earth's
was? Okay.
World. Yeah, the Portland Rose Festival. That one had a lot of good ones.
Man, they have a lot of good stuff on that one. Okay, let me look at a different one right now until that comes up. I like this one here. Who's this? Are they here? Oh, wait, yeah. You guys can
That's
see
me also.
What that? Oh, that's you too?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yes,
so
it is.
tell me when you pop the other one up there.
Do you want me to put both of those in there?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be good. Get my hands warmed up. I'm gonna go look in it right now. Okay, there it is. Fun Center is one, right?
Yes, I'm grabbing the other one right now.
I mean, one good thing about, I mean, what's the word with the school? Did they say April 19th we're done with this or what? Anybody know?
Yeah, they had said April 19th.
Man, I hope that's true. So it'll be like right before spring break. Is that what that is?
I think spring break's supposed to be earlier.
Yeah, I think it's after next week.
What I think is funny about the spring break thing is that we're all stuck at home anyway, and then we're going to have spring break. It just doesn't seem, it just seems so weird to me. Okay, I think I got those. Give me a second. Oh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, this guy, oh, I see what it was going on with this guy now. Okay. So I am gonna go, let's go with this one first.
I feel like when I drew this person, this is one of the ones where she ended up looking like angry, but she's like squinting, not supposed to be so angry.
Yeah, early on, because we'll get more and more into this like idea of where did she go? Of expression and all that. Okay. I don't think she looks angry. You think she looks angry?
Maybe a little sad, actually.
Yeah, a little sadder, I think. Well, she looks a little sad. Okay, so one thing you can really grab onto in these kind of things, which I love doing, is so get this overall shape in here. And then I like to go, she's got a little more, I like to landmark these out. And then, just like we did the trees, I'm going to come in here and put a big overall. And by the way, you guys, we're not making a documentary here. There's a little bit of interpretation involved here. So one thing that you got really good here, okay. One of the things, I mean, I think there's actually a lot of things working here. I think the nose is pretty good. I think it's a little bigger. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but she's got that little bit of a ball on the end of her nose. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take advantage of all those things. I'm not worried about a likeness right now. I just want to go through. This is, and I'm just looking at proportion and things like that right now.
How are you thinking about the proportions of the sizes if you're not completely structuring the
Okay,
head?
here's what I'm doing. I'm looking at, once I put in this big shape here, so let's break this down a little bit. Because normally we're doing these things fairly quickly, correct? If you're doing them from life. I don't need, let me get rid of this guy for a minute. Okay, so first off, I'm sort of looking at it with this whole, what I usually think of is this sort of front plane of the face right there. So I'm usually coming in with that first, then kind of building out this sort of idea. Now, if you look at her, I'm seeing this as, you guys can see me marking up that photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm seeing this overall shape because I want to break it down into something simple and graphic. Is almost like that, basically. Not almost, that is how I see it. Sort of that, okay? That's my sort of construction, and it also helps me to start going, it's like, I always say, if you draw me, I'm not that hard. I'm sort of just a bullet head shape, a little bit pointy on top, glasses, beard, you almost have me, okay? And she sort of has that sort of bullet head thing going on too, where it's sort of, you know, it's this real big, and then maybe like that a little bit, okay, a little wider. So then the next thing I'm looking at, if I squint down, what's really good here is I've got all these shadow values. So if I have those, I've got a lot going on here, which is really good. And then I'm looking at just what I was just saying. I build that. I think of this front part of the face, but then I go, how far is the tip of her nose here from her cheek? Okay, I'm looking at things like that. So if you notice, that's what I'm thinking right there. It's going to help me to place that nose. Okay, but I've already got this overall thing to sort of lock all my shapes into. Does that make sense? And this overall is going to change. Like that chin's going to be too high or too low, and ear, and that's why when we're doing this on pencil, you're doing this really light and loose, and you're just coming in and, you know, and then punching. Okay, so like this chin I hit, that's too hard. I shouldn't have done that because I know I'm going to change it. Okay, so then she's got a lot of cheek mass here. And I'm just going to go, and then look, she's got this upper part of her lip right here. It's important. It kind of does that. And that sets up the lip, okay? Then, again, a lot of mass to her face, so you got a lot of this form hitting form, okay? Now, notice we didn't overemphasize the, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
How did you get that shape of the eye?
I'm looking right here. Look, I'm squinting down, and there's a value there, and there's a value there.
Okay.
You see that? Like whenever life hands you the value stuff, it's awesome. But what I also want you to understand is the reason I keep emphasizing that kind of thing. Number one, it's shape. Okay, it's a graphic shape. But number two, that eye. Her eyes are sitting back in sockets, okay? So what tends to happen when people first start doing this is their drawings look flat. And the reason it's flat is because they're drawing, you know, a face, and they're kind of doing this kind of thing. You know, basically that, okay? And when I look at that, like in a life drawing class or something, I go up and I go, you're not looking at the model. Oh yeah, I am. It's like, no, you're not looking at the model because the model doesn't look like that. You're using, and this is something we have to like kind of get rid of, is all those things you think you see, like the almond-shaped eyes, you know, that are like this. Oops. Okay, hang on. Every now and then, for some reason, this has been happening, where I have to recalibrate my pen, which makes me crazy, because it happens way too much. And then it'll do it again in 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, there we go. Where you get this kind of thing, that's sort of a holdover from childhood, just like, you know, houses look like this. You know, there are things that you kind of have to get used to, you have to get rid of, okay? Now, we want to create a visual shorthand, and that is a visual shorthand, but we want the visual shorthand to be based on, you know, reality, basically, okay? So if I come in here now, and there's a little more coming out a little bit there. So now I'm starting to build on my form. Does that make sense? On my graphic shapes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because my hands are starting to get a little bit warmed up now. Okay. What am I doing right now? I'm just mapping my shapes. Notice I'm not going to like trying to finish anything. This actually comes out about there. And we have this double chin here. Sweeps up. This comes right out about there. And then I usually go right through. But actually, this actually comes down through here. So what I'm looking at, look at her, where her shoulder meets her face and where her shoulder meets her head, right? So I'm looking where those things happen. This one actually happens about there. And I usually go right through the form like that because I want those lines connected. I want my shapes connected, okay? I'm gonna put a little of that. Okay, so like all this business up here in the forehead, I don't know if I put that in, it might be read as confusing. So let's just go, let's give this a little bit of value. Let's give this a little bit of value. And I have to make decisions here as to what I'm going to show. Now, her whole side of her face right here is basically in shadow. And I'm just going to keep doing like a basic form breakdown here, okay? So I've just got a big shadow here. Got a shoulder. Shoulder actually comes down like that. I look at how far this strap is to the bottom of her head. Okay, then let's break this up a little bit, her hair. She's got some weird stuff going on with her hair. And then she's got, this is important, this little shape of her hair over here. I think that's really important. Okay, now, when I get the big shape of the hair in, I'm really, again, I'm looking for shapes. Look, there's a shape there, there, and they sort of, her hair looks like it's chopped here and then comes over this little dark passage. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm looking at it and going, oh, I can break her hair right there. I like that. And then, look, I'm going to simplify all this. And that's that little dark part right there that's going underneath her hair, or underneath the, you know, that other layer of hair. And then I'm going to break that up a little bit. She has this weird little braid thing going on. And then look, this right here is your key. Look at this. You got this nice rollover form right there. Can you guys see that? I did it again. Hang on. Can somebody please invent a company that puts Wacom out of business so I don't have to use their stuff anymore? I hate Wacom products. They suck. It's a brand new machine and it does this all the time. Okay. All right, she's also got a little bit of, now here's where it gets tricky. I think her mouth's a little lower probably, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Now look, I'm not gonna put all this shadow value, I don't think, in here. Maybe I will. I don't know. And then just got a little bit here. But what I was gonna say is this little part here, where that hair is rolling over like that. How many people here have had basic drawing?
Me.
Me.
Okay. So I don't know if you remember, but you did these basic forms, okay? Like a cylinder. And then you'd have to light it with that core, you know, and then it'd come down and it would shade out down here. You guys remember that? Mm-hmm. That's what this hair is. And by the way, that's why you do those things, okay? So you can render this stuff out or draw this stuff out using that idea. So if you look at here, there's a little bit of dark, then you'll get a little bit of a core right there, and then it pops into that highlight. But what it's also doing is everything is sweeping over it like that. So what does that do? It tells the viewer that's a curved form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go and do the same thing with your sketchbook. You should be turning it. Same thing here. Yeah. So here she's getting, but I'm going to put a little extra hit right there. And that'll sort of start to indicate that core. Does that make sense? You guys?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're just turning that form. We're just basically making a cylinder, okay? Now, we could also do this like this. You know, we could go, if you were using the side of your pencil, if I was using the side of my pencil, I can get that thicker stroke here and emphasize it that way, where I just make it bigger shapes. See how we're getting that shine there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And then I would go a little harder right there. And it'll do the same thing. It'll just turn that form as it goes into the hair, okay? And then same thing, this is really dark form over here. And that's usually how I would do it if I was doing it with a pencil. And then inside of here, you can start to build her eyes. And look at the picture. I can't see her pupils or anything. All I can see is a dark value, right? Why is that? Because this is probably, I don't know how close it is, but it's partly because it's a very harsh lighting situation. It's overhead sun. And also, if you're drawing people from far away, you're not going to see eyeballs and all that stuff. You're going to see sockets. And it's a really good thing to look at. Look at people from far away, squint down, especially out in the sun or whatever. And you really see those eye sockets in the bottom, cast shadow off the nose, and all that kind of stuff, okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to put a little more of this ball on her nose. And then now I can start going, okay, maybe I'll emphasize that a little bit. She has this little shape coming out. Now, you know, if I got it to where I was like, okay, I like it, it's a little harsh. Where I like it, I would start building up my shapes. And by the way, Jesse.
Yes.
If you notice, a lot of what's setting up this mouth thing is it kind of comes down and then goes up sort of and then down. But what's really emphasizing it
Mm-hmm.
is the apparatus around the mouth, okay? You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just screwed up her mouth, that's fine. Like the way this comes down so harshly there, and then the way the shadow values lead up sort of in this sort of, it's, what do you call it? It's pushing the shape forward this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like this upward motion that's all leading, look, there's an upward motion leading here, there's another line leading here, and then this is sort of leading up here. It's all sort of pushing that side of her mouth up a little bit, okay? Just, you know, from a sort of, what do you call it? Design point of view, I guess. Okay. All right, does that all make sense on this one?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Hang on. As usual, I get to do this again. There we go again. Okay. So also on the guy, let's look at this guy real quick. And then like I'm looking at this, by the way, going, you know, this shoulder. Oops. I don't know what's going on with that. Damn. Hang on. I might have to quit out of this and then relaunch. Let's get this guy here. I'm pulling out this other shot. A lot of times, with sunglasses, again, you know, I come up with some kind of visual thing. Now this guy, I can see now why, you know, why his mouth was pushed up further, closer to his nose, because he was making that expression. But a lot of times with sunglasses, now he's got some shapes you could interpret in there. But a lot of times, and then look at his, this is interesting. Look at his, look at this face shape right here. Like he does this, then sort of this. Do you guys see that? Look, boom,
Yes.
boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's what I want you to look for. Mine's not quite wide enough. But he's got this sort, that's the first thing I would see here. And that's what always gets me all excited about, because I go, wow, they're just handing me all these great shapes. Now he's got these glasses on. And again, there's a lot of, okay, so Jesse,
Yes.
there's a lot of, I'm just going to use him as just a simple breakdown. So we got this going on. Again, one of the things that's making this expression is all the stuff around. It's not just his lips, okay? His lips are pushed up, okay? But if you look like here on his cheek, and even here a little bit, that stuff is showing that it's pushing forward. Does that make sense? There's an apparatus around your mouth that's pushing that forward. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not a big anatomical thing. You've just got to find the graphic interpretation of that anatomical thing, okay?
Okay.
But let's just look at this real quick.
Are you drawing it like in a mirrored way? Or
No, I do a little bit. I am a little bit.
okay.
Not on purpose, just because I'm just
Oh.
looking at the shapes. But that's a good point. Hang on. I've got them turned slightly to the other way, to your point. Okay, so that's also a good point that I'm glad you brought up. Hang on. What I should have done here is got my basic shape here. And there's a lot of this on the video I'm going to put up after today. I should have put, because he's slightly 3/4, I should have put that axis line there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and then the bottom of his nose, and then, you know, his lips. By the way, that divot right there in his lip is going to, I'm going to do this. If this does this one more time, I'm going to relaunch Photoshop.
Mike, real quick, what's the shortcut on Photoshop to inverse the selection?
Command Shift I think. Okay, so then, but what I really want to talk about here is, okay, so look how structured his nose is. He has this shape, and then this shape. Can you guys see that? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, again, this guy's just giving me all these cool shapes. But I just kind of come in and map it out. Then what I really want to talk about here is his glasses, which are lower. So I'm looking at where this, you know, that top part falls on his, in his, you know, in relation to his nose. It lands right about on the wing of the nose, right on top of it. Then how much does it stick out around his face here? But at some point, I'm going to come up with some kind of, he's really got a nice cheek mass right there. And then look at this whole unit right here of his mouth. Because the whole thing's being pushed forward, it's like this part has become sort of this forward unit right here. Does that make sense? Like I can see a whole unit right there that's pushing forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you guys, when you have questions when I'm doing this, tell me. And then look, I love this too. Nice little shadow under the nose right there. And then I look at how far the hair is. Look, I got a little bit of the frame of the glass going back. Then I go, that's about where his hair hits. Ears about there. This is actually rounder. So I'm just starting to reinterpret. And then I like to use that where the lips meet to sort of get the, as my starting point. But let's go. And then it's just a whole, this whole thing's a unit right here. The beard and all that. But with the glasses, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could go, in this case, you have a pretty good bunch of shapes in there. Okay. So you could just, you know, maybe put those eyes, indication of those eyes in there again. And then there's, I could just read the shapes in there. There's a shape here. Now, sometimes you got to really simplify these. If you try and do them exactly, what I want you guys to understand is we're not like doing, this isn't a pencil rendering class or whatever. It's, we're trying to, we have to interpret these things, okay? I'm gonna put a heavier thing here. I could do it that way. I could do it where I just forget about putting the eyes in there. Make a heavier thing on the frames. And then sometimes what I'll do is you can do like a little interpretation of a reflection in there. Like something like that. Does that make sense? Because now I just eliminated the problem. I just went, okay, it's a reflective thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I'd map out this hair. And then a lot of times when curly hair like this, I'll just find a little shape language for it, like a little scribble language. And it comes down a little bit here. And it's not just a scribble language, it's actually, I do think about it. Like I look at, interpret what I'm seeing a little bit. But what I can do is I can make that scribble language a little denser as I come down into the shadow areas. And start to indicate that there's, you know, that there's light here. And then as it goes up here, it'll get sparser. And what I'm first doing when somebody has any type of hair, if it's curly or whatever, then I look at it right away and go, he's got a little wider, he's a little wider right here. And then look, you have this whole unit right here on the other side of his face.
Mike, can you zoom out your screen? I think you're zoomed in on the picture.
Am I? Not on my screen, I'm not.
Yeah, I see the full picture.
Oh, that's weird.
It's you, Elon.
Oh, it is.
Just you.
It's just you.
that mustache is pushed way up here. Okay. So, okay, so this whole side is in shadow. So I might be able to, you know, come in here and start putting that into shadow. Why do I care about big shadow shapes?
It's going to help you map out the rest of the face.
Yeah, that's one. And the other is that it locks everything together. It starts locking everything together in these big mass shapes. So whenever you're painting, whenever you're drawing, in any way, shape, or form, you want to mass those shadows and things together, because it just locks your form together. And then I can start to, it just locks everything together, okay? It gives me big shapes, because what can happen with faces or with anything, with landscapes, anything, is you can get all disconnected. It's really common, okay? That if you don't think about how things are relating to each other, it could be a knee, you know, where one knee's out too far, and it's like, that's just not what happens, and this knee's facing me a little bit, and you sort of draw what you think it is, and it's like, then the knee's way out here, and everything starts to disconnect, and it's why you want to do a big shape kind of first, and then go to your secondary and tertiary shapes, because then you've locked it into this framework, and then you can start building into that framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's that guy. Do you understand how we're interpreting this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So good.
Who keeps saying so far so good?
I said it one time. That was Jesse.
Is it Jesse? Okay, Jesse, does that all make sense?
Yeah. The only thing was I don't see totally how you were gonna make his lips come out way more, or like.
I didn't want to go down the whole rabbit hole of this one particular.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
The way I'm looking at it is, what I'm trying to get you to see is that, okay, here's what people see. They go, oh, the lips, and then they're higher. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, the lips, yes, they're higher. Mustache is pushed up against the nose. But what I'm looking at is that this whole unit is working together and pushing up. And then you can, with his face, you can really see his, you know, his cheek compressing, right? Mm-hmm. Like that, this compression here, even here, and then I'm seeing this as a whole unit that's sort of moved up and out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
I will get more into expression later. The reason I don't want to go down that rabbit hole is then I'm starting to sort of jump ahead of something.
Okay.
Because we're going to go into expression after this.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I want the basic idea of how we're blocking this all out to make sense. The other thing with this, you guys, is like, I don't like it when everything about this type of work becomes about speed. But this speed does, I'm trying to teach you a way that's good drawing and understanding how to put things together and good draftsmanship and all that, and good design. But this way we're working also tends to make you a lot faster. And I think, and I probably said this in class before, but it's a fundamental skill set. Like if you want to work, it's a fundamental skill set, because your language is going to be this kind of quick, sketchy stuff. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to sit there and go, hey man, I need an idea. You got 6 hours to make a drawing. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to go, I need a whole bunch of ideas by noon. You know what I mean? And your language is going to be more this, or storyboarding. Somebody in my other class, and this is exactly what I want you guys doing. She had this class, and then she's just been killing it because she just really works hard in her sketchbook. And then she, you know, and I was talking to her and I go, man, you're doing this really good with this. Because it's been like a term now or two, maybe. I think it's 2. And she took a storyboarding class with Brian, and she goes, man, I put this together, and then I went into Brian's storyboarding class, and then I started being able to kill it in there because I could draw quick, and man, her staging and everything is really good. And so a lot of that she probably got out of Brian's class, because there's a lot of staging in that. And she's just putting all of it together and seeing how everything connects together, which is what I want all you guys to do, okay? Because you're going into this, to me, this class is a fundamental class to feed you into storyboarding, to feed you into character design, to feed you into so on and so forth, okay? I had somebody else who was starting to draw their drawings the way that I see them come out of character design in my digital drawing class, and I go back to your other style. You got this super nice, loose style, and it was getting all squeezed and tight and stiff, and I'm like, you don't draw stiff. Why are you suddenly drawing stiff? Because then you're introduced to some formula of, oh, this is how they do it in the industry, and it's like, that's BS. I mean, there's certain things, yes, they do in the industry, But if you go and you look at these top people who are designing for like animation and all these different kind of things, most of them don't have that formulaic way of drawing sort of went away because 2D went away. The type of drawing that people did in 2D animation, if you ever look at it, you can go for like a 30-year period where the drawings look similar to each other. It's a construction thing. That's how you had to construct it for animation. Now they're freed up from that, because now you basically make a puppet and you can move this thing around. You don't have to worry about interpreting 8 legs by drawing. You interpret it in a puppet. So it changed the stylistic, it opened up the stylistic direction of animation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Which means now you can have a personal style and you can work in animation, okay? Or whatever, not just animation. Okay, let's look at another one. I'm going to go through, okay. But Jesse.
Yes.
Those are good sketches. Those are good starts.
Thank you. I like that Earth's World website. There's so many good photos in there.
I know, it's great, right? Now somebody did these, which, where's Carnegie? Is Carnegie here? Yes?
Yeah.
I barely hear you.
Oh, I don't know how to make it louder.
Oh, there you go. How long did these take you?
I don't remember. I have no idea.
Because they feel a little longer to me, but they're nice drawings. I mean,
I think the one on the bottom there, that one probably took me like 20, 30 minutes.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Are you starting them with like a big, nice,
Yeah, like I'll start with a square.
Oh, great. That's exactly, yeah, because like this guy down here, I mean, look, there it is. Who is that? He looks familiar.
He was on the Earth World website.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can see that square. Look at that. Right there. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now if I wanted to caricature that, look at, you got this and then it jumps in here. You might do a big cheek thing and then make this a straight. Emphasize that nose, whatever. Okay, actually expressions are pretty good too. Okay, what I would say is just give me a ton of them. I want pages and pages of these, right?
Okay.
And then the other thing is that's nice here is I believe this hat, like a lot of times people sort of flatten them off, but yours looks like the idea was, yeah, I understand that this is basically a cylinder. Does that make sense? Like it feels nicely constructed. Yes?
Yeah.
Where's Carnegie?
Hello?
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I also like this, where you're really breaking this form down. Now, what I'd say is everything's getting very rigid. So one thing I might do here, let's go them back a little bit. Is like I might move this pocket over a little bit. And why? Because I want to break that edge. Probably loosen this stuff up again. Maybe I do the little thing. Let me knock this down a little bit. There we go. And loosen up some of this stuff here a little bit. You got this fold coming up over here. I'd probably emphasize that a little more. probably, there's a pocket on this side. There's probably a pocket on this side. Hang on. You know what, you guys? I'm going to relaunch Photoshop. Give me a second. This is making me crazy.
What kind of Wacom monitor do you have?
What's it called? They don't name their product well either, by the way. Hang on. Wacom 16. This is all their products, though. All their products are glitchy. You know, I'm not a fan of it at all. And I also think the design is terrible. Like, just from an aesthetic point of view, they look very 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that drives me crazy is right now I'm going up and down. I probably told you guys I need to get a Wi-Fi booster for upstairs. So I'm going up and down this, you know, and bringing all this down here because the Wi-Fi is right here. But my workspace is actually upstairs. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, the plug on this thing, it's like a big fat plug that comes out and then breaks into three things. I got to plug one side into the laptop, another side into the laptop, then another one goes in. It's just, it looks very, I don't know why this isn't Bluetooth by now. Or at the very least, one HDMI cable. Why do I have these things that are splaying off? It's just a really weird product.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the reason is because they consider themselves the only game in town. So they're sort of like, well, where are you going to go? We're the only game in town, you know? And it's like, well, not once Apple gets in this game, if they ever do.
Right.
But I would assume, I mean, if Jobs is still around, I'm sure they would have been, because they could have wiped out, I mean, they could wipe out Wacom overnight if they wanted to. Why they don't, I don't understand. And then we'd have a reliable, because I don't know if you guys notice when you draw on a iPad, you draw on it, you don't have problems. You know, there's not all this calibration and all this nonsense going on. Okay. Okay, now I got to start over here. All right, so what I was just saying, Carnegie, about those, is that making sense to sort of break it up a little bit or to soften it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. And I won't go through all of these, but I'm trying to pick ones that are sort of key things that speak to everybody, okay? Hopefully. But those are nice drawings. What's your major?
Me?
Yeah.
Entertainment arts.
Oh, okay. What do you want to do? Please don't tell me character design.
I don't know, like animation or storyboard or something.
And then, by the way, there's nothing wrong with character animation. It's just that everybody goes, oh, I want to be a character designer. Is Kayla here?
Yes.
Okay, these look really nice. And look at that. I mean, this one, I almost don't have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, these are nice.
Thank you.
What's your major?
I'm just taking extra classes at the college. I don't really have a certificate or associates that I'm going for.
Well, what do you want to do?
Design.
Oh, I love that. See, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Like, you mean like just broadly?
Broadly, yeah. I mean, I like characters and environments, but I'm really happy with like anything because I just like it overall.
That's it.
Huh?
Because then you'll work. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to go in and put I knew a guy when I taught 100 years ago, before I stopped teaching, over at Woodbury, and this is probably in 2000 or something, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he got an internship at Imagineering. And I think he wanted to be a character designer. I can't remember what he wanted to be. And then they kind of liked him, so they kept him around. And then he goes, and I talked to him, and I go, wow, they're keeping you on. He goes, no, I quit. And I go, why did you quit? He goes, I don't want to do that. I go, dude, you just closed the door on the biggest opportunity you've ever had that you will probably never get again. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like he didn't get the value. He goes, well, they were putting me on a job site and having me do this, that, and the other, and kind of a little bit of administrative stuff. I go, that's what you do. And then you constantly make sure they're seeing your work and they're looking at it and you're making contacts. And then the next job might be, hey, you know what? We got to design a Bugs Land or whatever. You might be good for that. You know what I mean? That's what happens. But he cut it off because of some kind of stupid, arrogant idea about usually you're not going to go from college right to the rock star position. Sometimes you do. I mean, we've had students at the school do that just recently. You know, they're going from here to Vans or here to Disney TV or here to video game companies and making really good salaries. Okay. So it does happen. It's not like it doesn't happen. And I don't ever want to sit here and go, well, that never happens. Well, yes, it did. It happened to me too. Okay. But it's luck favors the prepared. I mean, that's just true. Like have your skill set together. And when that phone call happens, you go, yes, I can do that. Correct?
Right.
That way, when they call you and go, hey, we're doing environments, you go, yeah, I can do that. Hey, we're doing character stuff. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Hey, we're doing props. Hey, we're doing consumer products. Hey, we're doing toys. Hey, we're doing, who cares? You know what I mean? It's all fun. Okay. All right. So this one, I mean, I like so many things about this. I love the way you did the hat. Now, what I might do here is control the line work a little more. Or just emphasize it a little more because I think you're already controlling it pretty well. I would maybe here gets a little heavier. I'm probably going to go a little heavier. You're probably seeing it fine on your screen, but I'm probably going a little heavier than normally would. I want to make sure that you're seeing what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Under the nose is like a shelf, right? So we can get a little heavier there, even here a little bit. And it'll start to separate. I don't like that one right there. It'll start to separate. I'm going to hit that cheek mask behind his nose a little harder. I want to hit his eyelashes a little harder. I'm going to hit the bottom of this a little bit. Just to vary it, okay? And then I love this. Maybe I'd emphasize that a little more. A little darker. Now here, where his hat is hugging his head, he's got hair, so it might push compress his hair out a little bit, like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then same thing here. Now what am I doing? I'm really just going over sort of what you're doing, but I'm just varying the line a little bit. Or varying the shapes a little bit. Back of his ear, because I'm going to say the light's here. Now, another thing I do, and I'll put this on a different layer, is if I have a ball, a cap with a brim on it, I'm also going to hit this one a little bit. If I have a cap with a brim on it, I might pull that shadow over the top part of his face. Like that. Okay, I always do that actually, because what does it do? Masses a big shape on top. There's a painter that I like a lot named Bill Anton, right? Does a lot of Western genre stuff. So you look at his paintings, they're fairly big paintings. You look at his paintings from across the room, I mean, your jaw hits the floor, okay? You'll have a cowboy on horseback, cowboy hat on, out in the desert or whatever. And then it just looks perfect, right? And you walk up to it and literally the cowboy in the sun, his hat, the whole top part of his face right here is just a darker value. See the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the face. He does nothing inside that shadow, okay? And it looks awesome, okay? Real loose, real painterly. I'm going to separate this. Okay, so I'm going to separate that collar a little bit. Now, I might, just for the heck of it, I know you're concentrating on the face. I might put that little seam thing that happens right there on the shirt.
Right.
Okay, but I wouldn't overdo it. This cap has that little opening right there, and it's kind of coming out over, so I'd probably hit that a little bit. And it's looping over, so I might put that little dark value in there to show it a little more. Sometimes I cheat the edge of this hat. It has that little thing with
the
thing that you tighten it with. Sometimes I'll have it kind of break the border a little bit, even though it hardly ever does that. It helps to describe what's going on there. It breaks the border a little bit. See what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, a little bit of it. And I might put the little, maybe a fold here or like a little value shift right there. I mean, this one's great. And then I might even go a little bit of value on the nose. I do this with a pencil. You guys have probably seen me do that. And then I smudge it out. Then I go in with an eraser. And I put a little highlight on it. Okay? That's a great drawing.
Thank you.
Okay. Where's that from? Is that from that Earth's World thing?
Yes, I forgot to write that down.
It might be. I don't think it is. There's another guy on there that I think I'm going to do a little demo over to about stylization. But like this, man, this drawing. I'm not getting anything. Oh, I'm on erase. This one that we've just been talking about, that's exactly what I want. That's a really nice drawing.
Thank you.
Now, when we get unquarantined, you can go out in the real world and do that, right?
I hope. I mean, it's a lot different from doing it from a photo versus someone who's constantly moving. And
yes, exactly. But what you can do is, what I do, I think not unique to me, but is, you know, if I'm drawing this guy or anybody and they move, okay, so like if we're in a situation, we're in a cafe or something like that, okay, and somebody gets up and moves, I'm going to go, you know, and they're sitting in this position, you know, profile position to me, okay? I don't give a crap because some other human's going to get up or is going to go and sit there in that same position. It's still human anatomy. I'm not worried. When I'm out doing this stuff, I'm not usually worried about a likeness or anything. I mean, I am sometimes if I go, wow, that person's funny looking, or wow, they're really interesting looking. I saw a woman one time at Alvera Street that was really interesting looking, and I couldn't find a good spot to draw her because it just would have came off as weird just by where she was sitting.
Yeah.
But man, I want to draw her really bad. And I see that all the time, you know, with just with all kinds of people, you know what I mean? I go someplace and I go, oh God, that guy's really interesting looking, you know, and I want to draw him. And, you know, those I'm going to try. But what I'm going to do then is I'm going to map really fast. So, you know, if I'm doing this guy, you know, I'm going to get this kind of idea. I know he has a baseball hat on, right? So I don't have to do too much with that because I can use anybody's baseball hat. Somebody has one on, trust me, they always do.
Right.
But what's interesting here is I want to get that sort of stair-step nose idea. Boom. He's got this. Then the other thing I like is how far back the lip is from the upper lip. And then I'm just going to go, okay, I got almost enough. There's where his eye is. You know, if there's anything interesting about his eye, I'll put that in there, so on and so forth. And I go, okay, I've got enough where if he moves, I can still kind of get him, right? And that just takes a few seconds. I know that takes time to do that. And I like what you just said about it's totally different from life. It is. And the reason what's so great about working from life is I don't know anything that improves your drawing skills as fast as that does. Okay? It just makes, I don't know, it just accelerates the hell out of it. Okay? And I think a big part of it is it's not just the speed thing or that people are moving or that it's a dynamic environment or whatever. That's part of it, but it's all right there in front of you, whereas it really isn't in a photograph. A photograph is doing all sorts of things that, you know, the stuff is right in front of you. If I start going like, man, I'm having trouble with 3/4 view, I just change my position and go, okay, now I got a good 3/4 view of all these people. And I'm gonna sit there and but the main thing is, if you go somewhere to draw, you're going to spend a lot of time drawing. If you do that at home, it's not the same. Does that make sense?
Right.
And hopefully what I like you guys to do, and I probably said this also a million times, I want you guys to get addicted to this. I'm addicted to it, okay? Like drawing and painting from life and all that kind of stuff. I'm just addicted to it. And then coming home and taking that, and it improves my skill set so much all the time that it's exciting to me. It keeps me excited all the time. Does that make sense? Okay. Because this will apply as we start going into stylization and all that. Okay? Really good job.
Thank you.
So let's go. Let's look at Susie. You there? She was here earlier. Where is she?
I'm here.
Oh, you're there.
Yeah.
You guys have to unmute yourself. Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that just the space bar?
Yes.
It doesn't work for me.
Because I've noticed that like the first meetings I did like this, they were totally cacophonous and all this noise and everything. And now they're all like nice and quiet. So I'm assuming everybody figured that out. Okay, so let's look at, where's yours at? You know, here's a
This
good
is a little
example.
embarrassing.
Oh, yeah. None of this stuff should be embarrassing, man. And by the way, that's not embarrassing drawing at all.
Okay.
Look, one thing that's really been interesting to me coming back to teaching after all these years, and I'm always, you know, trying to push everybody, and some of the kids will go, you're not trying, and I give them all this kind of crap, but then I think about it and I go, that kid's 10 times better than you were when you were here. You know what I mean? And that kid's actually working harder than you did because you weren't doing jack crap when you were their age. And I got a student right now in digital drawing. She's 17. She's just unbelievable. You know what I mean? If I go, hey, here's how you use a 2-point perspective tool, blah, 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 do some thumbnails. I come over and I'm trying to keep her to work small. She's done 7 big drawings that are all really good. You know what I mean? And then like yesterday, or we had a meeting Thursday or something. And I just wanted the kids to do one 11 by 17 page, and like half of them didn't do it. And she did 4, okay? And then she goes, oh, I have 17 other pages too. 17 other pages. She did like 23 pages. I asked for 1. You know what I mean? And then I go, hey, don't, and she's the one I was just talking about the character thing where stuff was getting too stiff. I go, I want that loose stuff, you know? By the end of the meeting, she goes, oh, I just put one up. And I didn't know it was her because I couldn't see her. So I thought it was somebody putting stuff up late. I go, hey, you know, I go, it's too late. And she goes, no, it's Haley or whatever. And she goes, I just put up what you just said. So anyway, I go, while we were having the meeting, she already did the next page that I asked her to do all loose. 11 by 17, boom, she did it. You know what I mean? I mean, she's just like a monster, you know? Yeah. And it's so exciting to see that because I was so not that when I was 17. And it's just like I keep telling her, I go, man, you were like, most everybody in the school, like you're really ahead of the curve if you're there and really working hard and trying, you know, because I don't think most people do. I mean, some people figure it out, but I sure still didn't. I didn't figure it out till later, you know. Okay, this one I like. I just like this a lot. What I might try and do is, so let me put drawing. Let's ghost it back a little bit. Okay, so I would probably just organize the values a little better and edges maybe. So like this, like I like what you're doing with it. Like this is great. It really starts to speak to that plane. I like to bring this bottom plane right up into that. And just sort of get it a little bit organized. Now, I'm going to say the lights here. Okay. Same thing. Might put that little indication of the edge of the glasses just to break it up a little bit. Is his hair like kind of hanging down?
Yeah.
Okay. You see, I'm just sort of organizing it a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so I'm going to put this here. And I'm really thinking about, look, there's going to be a little core right there that turns his head. See that? Or turns his hair. Mm-hmm. And there'll be another one right there. I'm not going to overdo that though. Okay, ear. Just all I'm doing really right now is clarifying. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get that little harder shadow on the bottom of the nose. That helped a lot. Look how much that little mark on the bottom of his nose like tightened up his, it just tightened it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Same thing under here. We'll get into hands a little more later. Maybe a couple indications, those knuckles. That comes down a little more structured there. Okay, this is good. Yeah, I don't like that. This one, I want to pull his shirt up a little bit and have it wrap around a little bit. Put that little dark mark. See that?
Okay.
Even if it's not there, a lot of times I'll put it there just because I'm trying to loosen up the, I'm always trying to loosen up the drapery, okay? This could probably get a little pull fold here. A lot of times I do the same thing where I flip it around the back. Probably a little fold here. Now here, not there. I might do the little bulge right there because it tends to mass up a little bit right there.
Okay.
Not may not have, but even if it does, if I can see it a little bit, I might push it a little bit. So I'm always looking, just like you've taken life drawing before, right?
Right.
You know, they're always telling you to, what's the word? Exaggerate, right?
Okay.
There's a reason for that. Like, and I probably talked about this in class. For some reason, it seems like us being in class was some other lifetime ago. So if I'm repeating myself, forgive me. If you didn't push it, because I remember when I was taking life drawing, when they kept telling me to do that, I go, why are you telling me to do that? I didn't get it. And the reason kind of was because if you don't push it, you end up, instead of, you know, this big dramatic pose, you end up with sort of this, okay? Mm-hmm. Even though it feels like you're pushing it too hard, at the end, it doesn't. It feels more natural, okay? So you just have to, I think we all tend to be timid, okay? Especially with drawing and art and all that kind of stuff. This feels a little wide here, but that's fine. Okay, so like here on the tree. Okay, so by the way, here's another thing, you guys. When I think we talked about this. When you knock in a chair or something, like when you're doing people from life, just like go, okay, there's where his arm lands. Maybe here's where the back of the chair happens, right? I do that last. The chair isn't going anywhere. I can always knock the chair in. But what I think it needs is a little more structuring, which that's basically all this is, this whole drawing basically. So I might do what you did here. You know, just make sure this feels. And by the way, the chair's not the star. Okay, I get it. There's going to be probably a little cast shadow right here. I want to hit this a little harder. I think I hit it a little too hard. That's because I haven't built the whole drawing up. So your line work, as you go through your line work and it gets, you know, heavier and lighter and all that kind of stuff, it all has to balance out because that's your value system, right?
Okay.
So here, I might make these, this probably here. Sometimes the pants will come over and they'll sort of droop right there. I might, is this a pocket right here on his pants?
No, it's a logo, the Adidas logo.
Sometimes I'll just put pockets on and things like that just because I need something. That's up to you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I like that. I still don't like the way I did the pant leg, but I find, oh, and the other thing is, maybe I just do it with, you're usually going to get a pull fold out from behind here. So I can pull a couple of those out, you know, because on the pant leg, you know, you're going to get these pull folds like that. Now, part of the, you know, and then we might hit that a little harder to separate it from him. And then, like, I love, like this where you place the eye, it looks perfect. Okay, because it's I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you look at when people are wearing glasses, what's interesting about it is the relationship of where the eye is to the frame, to me. Okay, because I'll draw it sometimes and I'm going, like, I'll look at it, or it's in my head because I don't look up all the time. It's in my head and I go, oh, the eye's right there, because I do it all the time. And then I look and I go, that's not even close. You know what I mean? Like you'll go, you know, it'll be like what you're doing right here where it's like right in the middle of the frame. If you're not thinking about it, people will always put the eye inside of the frame. Does that make sense? Or sometimes it's like way over here out of it, depending on the angle of the head, and maybe way up above it. And it's not because they have the glasses down like that. It's just perspective, you know? But you really got to look at that. And when you get the frame, I consider that a freebie, because if I have eyeglass frames, well, now That's a pretty easy landmark for me, okay? You know, because I know the nose ends up right about there and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Then it also gives me basically a unit of measure, okay? So now I can go, oh, is eye from here to here? It lands right there. And is eye from here to here? It lands right here. Or if it's turned more in perspective, sort of to what you just did, you know, you're going, oh man, the eye's way back here, you know, or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it gives me a unit of measure. I go, where's the eye in relation to that frame, okay? Because we're always looking for a unit of measure. Usually when we're, the nice thing about clothing is that it's a unit of measure, all of it is, okay? Because I think all the anatomical stuff you learn in life drawing is great, but I also think you have to learn how to interpret it, which I think is what a lot of people never learn to do.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of get too hung up on anatomy, and they spend so much time putting it all together from anatomy, like going, oh, there's the deltoid, there's the tricep, and then you're going, I have a friend who's, I probably mentioned this before, but I have a friend who's a really good, taught life drawing and all that, and is really good at that academic figure drawing stuff. But when you take her to a cafe or to a coffee shop, she completely falls apart. Like her system doesn't work at all. Why? Because it's an academic figure drawing system, and it's just very rigid. And when you go to a cafe, it's not that anymore. It's not this classical model standing up there for 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever. It's not what it is. It's real life. And to me, all this stuff is so you can connect it to real life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I want to do this personally. I don't, you know, when I was at Art Center and stuff, I'm like, I want to be one of those guys that, like, if I'm in Paris and the window's open and I got this beautiful view, I'm going to sit there and do a painting of it, you know, just because I want to capture that moment and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All the peripheral stuff around that, good design sense, you know, career stuff, design, all that, that's great. That's fun. But it feeds all that too. So I think if you're feeding both, you got to feed both. And I'm seeing a lot of people who don't feed both. They're just so entertainment centric or something like that. It's like, are you an artist, or you just want to do that? You know what I mean? And I think it's two different things. I think you should be an artist first, period. You know, whether it's travel sketching or whatever it is, because then you can take this stuff and take it to wherever you want to take it. Fine art, travel sketching. Like if you're going travel sketching, there's nothing better. Or if you're doing like landscapes or whatever, like stuff I paint, like I paint jazz musicians and stuff like that. I go to the club, I draw them at the club. I get all my ideas there, you know, and I've already kind of figured out what I'm going to do. I start figuring out compositions in the moment. I'm listening to the music at the time. I'm absorbing all this stuff. And then I can go home and make a painting about it because I experienced it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's super important. And I think that's super important if it is a commercial job. If I'm going to go, like we talked about, you know, March Field, you know, where I still want to go. That's ground zero for vehicle design. You want to do vehicle design, spaceship design, whatever for entertainment. That's the first place I'd go, you know, and go have that experience and really look at the nuts and bolts of things literally up close and absorb all this information and get all these ideas while I'm there. I'm probably going to start stylizing them while I'm there after I'm good and warmed up. You know, it's just so valuable for the whole process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, this is a really nice drawing. I like that. And I also like that it captures a sense of personality to it. Okay,
yeah.
That's also important. There's a guy named Adolf Menzel. I forgot when he was alive, like in the 1800s or something, but he would make these really beautiful, apparently he drew constantly all the time. He's this weird guy. And he drew, you know, anyways, and he was really well known. So you go to all these society things, I think, like that, but he was just always drawing. But and they're beautiful drawings. They're really beautifully drawn drawings. But the difference to me with his stuff is that his sketches of people look like real people. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel like generic people. Like every time I see him, I go, I wonder who that was. And I wonder what their life was. And I wonder what happened to them. They feel very personal and very specific. So I think when you capture that kind of thing, that's a hard thing to capture, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that all make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go. What else can I get through? And by the way, you guys, before I close out class today, I have to screen capture everybody who's here so I can put them in attendance, okay? I gotta, hang on. Skylar.
Yes.
Okay. Now you draw people, you've been drawing people for a while, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
They got a really nice sense of balance. What I'd like to see you do. Ooh, that's a good one. Let me get rid of some of these.
And this one, I tried to stylize it and have it like tilt her head down, like looking over her sunglasses, and I don't know, it didn't end up the way that I wanted it to.
Okay, that's what I'm working on that video for you. Okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things, just think about it simply, and I won't go too far into it right now, but because I'm gonna put a video up of it, is this one right here. That's a nice drawing, man. Okay. And what I like about that, if you look at, I don't know, okay, so is this the last one you did?
Yeah, that day.
Because look at the difference. Okay, so I've seen your stuff obviously before. Look at the difference in that one and that one. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, what the difference here is, number one, I love the way you're interpreting the hair. Love the way you interpreted the beard. You didn't overdo it, but it's right. Balance-wise, it's a really nice balanced drawing, okay? But it also has another layer of sort of looseness to it, and I don't know how to explain it. The other stuff's a little bit tighter. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like this to me looks more like your kind of standard, the way you draw. This one feels like a big step forward to me. I want to see more of that, okay? It just feels like you're warmed up and loose and, you know? Mm-hmm. That's a nice drawing. And I love the way you interpreted the hair, the way this is pulling back and showing me, what's happening. This kind of thing, when we're talking about, I'm just going to get real simple. The way I kind of look at this, and it'll be in the video, this idea of foreshortening is, if you look at the head sort of this way, the way I'm looking at it is these forms overlapping each other, okay? So I have the brow, I have the nose, and I have the mouth, that whole unit of the mouth, okay? And then if I take this and I take it into the idea of a square, and I start tilting the head back, or tilting the head forward, then I've got this brow, but now it drops down a little bit because I'm seeing more of it, right? And then what happens? The nose is going to tuck up under that brow a little bit and get closer. Everything's going to get closer to that landmark, okay? And then the mouth also is going to tuck up under the chin a little, or under the nose, right? Because why? Because we're tilting that head, everything's compressing, okay? So I tend to think of it just in terms of form. And then just think of this as like your glasses frame. You're tilting. So then what happens? The ear goes up, gets higher, okay? And then if I start putting this stuff in here, and then all this stuff, chin, everything's going to get pushed up and not as much of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So try and think of it just, so what I'm doing with the head thing is I'm going to do probably two versions of it. One is just this idea of block and geometry and figuring and just learning how to see it. Then I'll probably do another pass on it and go, okay, let's take this a little more anatomical and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. This, I mean, there's so many things you could do here. You're already starting to do it. I would probably go a little crazier. If I have star glasses, I'm probably going to go a little more Elton Johnny with them, like really big. Mine are too spiky, but you get the point. You know, if you're talking about stylization, I always love doing this where I see the back of the frame hanging off the ear. And then I'd also probably do, I might do the shiny thing in there, I don't know. This, I'd probably emphasize the ball of that nose a little more. Probably drop that down. How old is she? Pretty old?
Yeah, pretty old. I feel like I made her younger as I drew her more.
Another thing that it's going to be in that video, it's already in it, is how to age people. Okay? Just how to take this young person and just in a couple of things, age them up. Okay? Now, one thing you're going to get, like I'm going to put a little more mask back here. And again, I'm probably going to go, let's do this. Let's do this. Probably going to go, I'd probably go a little crazier with her hair. And maybe this whole bun thing gets way more prominent. Maybe, I'm gonna play around with something here. So, give her more of an expression. And then this neck kind of goes, you know, I know it can do a lot of things, but I'd probably simplify it. And then this usually comes down and gets a little bit of a jolly idea right there. I don't want two of those. You know, I could do something with her nose. I'm going to give it a little bit of value like I always do. Usually if I give a little bit of value, then I got to go back in and reinforce the line work. It's going to be a lot of cheek mask there. So what I'm looking for here, and then I think you already kind of did, yeah. So you're understanding really well this sort of idea how the hair is working, I think. And then here, you know, if she has bangs, if you're doing bangs, you can kind of come down and, you know, graphic them up. Let's put a face on there. So here's the face. And then here's the nose, here's the mouth. And we can kind of, you know, make some sort of graphic interpretation of that. And then that gives me an opportunity to light it. Well, get that little shine on the front of the bangs. And again, that little core shadow right there. You know, and then I can start building the rest of it sort of in the same fashion. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we go, okay, so now you start to develop a shape language here with her, because you've sort of developed it already. But then, you know, you push it and you go, okay, does she have bangs? And then I'm going to make these glasses really prominent. Much bigger. You know, maybe I just see a little bit of her nose popping out of there. And I can just start riffing on this all over the place. The main shape that I like here is, I always like, and also, by the way, let's get this. I have to figure out some way to stylize your nose. I don't know yet. Get a collar. When you're doing this kind of thing, it's the same thing. I do this a lot where, again, I'm just thinking of this as a cylinder. and starting to, wrap it over, because the hair basically is like a cylinder when it's done like this, when it's like that, okay? And then this is going to come over here, here.
Yeah, in the picture, it was like this bun, but of lots of tiny little curls, like ringlets that made it up. I mean, I could have simplified it, but.
It's all about starting with the simplifying, because the simplifying always tells you what's going on. I'm going to push that a little bit. Hang on. This. Overemphasized her chin a little bit. Maybe I'll put her chin really small. Makes her look a little more old lady-ish. Really small chin. And at some point, I don't even care about the photo anymore. The photo is just my jumping off point, And it's funny because I'm not used to really working from photos that much, but I'm obviously starting to do it a little more now. And I'm having fun with it because I just haven't done it so long. It's fun to, it's just fun to play with it again. Usually I just draw it in my head, or I draw from life, one or the other. Okay. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So give me a little more, just more of that. Give me more of that guy. And this too. I like where you're going with these too. Okay? But this guy right here feels like a leap to me. It's just like your stuff is nice anyway, but this is getting to another level. Even this stuff right here, the little indications, these little shifts in anatomy and things like that are really subtle, That's what you want, okay? And it also has a sense of looseness to it. It's a sense of naturalness to it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, more of that. Give me 1,000 of those.
Okay.
I'll be super happy. Okay. Let's go. Jonathan Guzman here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
This one right here, that's a pretty nice drawing. What's that from?
That's from one of the links that you sent.
Oh, wow. It almost reminds me of like a Richard Avedon photo or something. Oh, I should put that up. Did I put that up? You guys?
Richard Avedon?
Yeah. He's a
I don't think
photographer.
so.
By the way, I'm going to pull something up here real quick. Because I had this train of thought when I was talking to Susie, so I want to go back to it real quick.
So I think for this picture, there was a lot of struggle with the face, and then kind of getting like that back curve to line up, because I had started with that front area, and then I was struggling a lot with like trying to connect the back.
Okay, so one thing that might be the problem there, and I found these drawings, so I'll bring it up in a second, is what you just said. I kind of did the front area, Okay. Number one, I think you did a really good job on the face, actually. It feels nicely structured. It's a little bit stylized, which is okay. But I think you might have, I don't know how you did it, but to put this sort of curve in first and sort of understand this shape relationship first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had tried that, but then I found like the arm was pushing too close to that. So then after, when I came back to like adjust it, like it really, when I had initially kind of laid out that initial shape, it's where the end of the arm was, and then I realized like, oh, the back, you could actually see more of the back.
Oh yeah, okay, that happens all the time. Actually, in the video I put up for you guys of the guy sitting at the cafe or whatever, there's a mention of that where I go, oh, I just noticed I can see more from his back of his arm to the back of his back. There's more room, or there's more shape there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's a lot of good things going on here, but just try and get that, you know, you might see it as, you know, I like to get, you might see it as this, again, this shape, and how that relates to this shape, because this is overhanging this shape, obviously, right? Now, another thing is, there's an ellipse in there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when I look here, I'm not getting that sense. It's feeling very flat, right? Mm-hmm. That's because you're not putting that idea in there of that ellipse, because then everything wraps around that. So if this is a pleated skirt, you know, they can go over each other, but they'll follow that form all the way around. And then I can just sort of put them in front of each other, and it'll wrap around. It'll make sense. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so what I would say here right now is sort of like here, we're getting a little wobbly with our line right there in the front of her foot. Might just, for now, simplify that. The calf's going to be up here a little bit. And a lot of times, I like what you're doing with that, though, but a lot of times with feet and things like that, and I know I'm totally simplifying, you know, I start off with this idea of this sort of wedge shape, okay? And then I go in and start, you know, designing it up and structuring it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so yeah, you're just making kind of like a cylinder and then like a box shape, but then after that you're adding.
And a lot of times, man, like I said, a lot of times I'm going in here, just like, I mean, not just me, everybody. I'm going in here and, you know, I'll do something like that, like with that shoulder breaks, and I'll just do a sharper point. It sometimes can place it more precisely in your brain. At least that's how it works for me. But then that's a real light line, and then I come in over that, and I sort of, you know, start to loosen things up and go, you know, like this axis line on her neck is actually like here. So that collar probably should have been more like there somewhere. Because when you put a face or anything in there, let's say here's a face, right? That axis line's here, that follows right back, and everything's following that axis line all the way down the body, basically. Does that make sense?
So you would put kind of that line from the top of the forehead
I just
all
put
the
a
way down?
landmark for myself that it keeps reminding me that that's where the center is.
Okay.
I don't make a big thing out of it. Like, I don't sit here and go, okay, I'm going to map it all out. I don't do that. But I'll just go, you know, like in the relation to the head, I kind of always think like, well, there's a collar, let's say the neck here, right? There's that divot of your collarbone right there, and then it kind of comes up like that, and I go, okay, well, that connects like that. And then that means that the chest is like here, right? And that means the deltoid is there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
By the way, a really good book for all you guys to get is a book called Figure Drawing, Design, and Invention by Michael Hampton. I'll put a link up to it.
Oh, I have that book.
That's a great book. That is a really great book. Yeah, yeah. So what I want you guys to look at that is that's taking the same idea of what we're doing here and applying it to anatomy. Okay? Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, look. I want to look at this real quick. I like this face a lot. So okay. Now, again, I think all you do here is just a little bit of clarity. I think we were talking about Susie stuff, just a little bit of clarity. Now, this is a good example. This brow is, okay, so look. This brow is part of this thing, of this same brow, right? So they should actually line up a little bit. Does that make sense? It's sort of a
Yes.
little higher on this side. You know, I might see a little hint of the eyelid there. And sometimes I add these things even if they're not there. This, I love the way the nose is tilted like that. That. I give this lip a little more emphasis on the top. And then, yeah, your ear went up. That's good. And then this I'd clarify. You know?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to kind of add that hair because I remember in one of the first drawings that you did for the video, you kind of just put like that little like oval shape as like the hair, and that came out really good. So I was trying to like do that with the side of my pencil.
Yeah. So see how we're just sort of giving it a little bit of form?
Yeah, I see that.
Like that. Okay, and then again, look. And, you know, it could be a stray hair here. And then, okay, so like, look, we have this small earring idea. Just, you know, I'd probably go a little crazier with that. Just so I can see it a little better. Look, then the chin's going to come in like that. And you are getting foreshortening. See how short that area is between the chin?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get a little bit of neck. And then this is bumping out. It's probably... Oh, I love this. Okay, so see how we sort of structured that head up a little bit?
Yeah, I see that.
And the whole thing's just a little more structured, okay? You know, always look at where that hand is landing in relation to the rest of the form. Feels a little long to me. This one, not so much. And I'm simplifying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that all make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Okay, good. So let's look at Susie. Look, here's a couple of these. Let me see if I can pull them straight out of here. I don't think I can. Yeah. Here's some of, we were talking about earlier about the quick stuff. These are some of Glenn Keane's drawings. One of the things he did when he was working on Aladdin, he went to, I don't know, Hermosa Beach or someplace, and he wanted a certain type of athleticism in that character, okay? So he went to a volleyball place, like at Hermosa Beach or someplace, and he drew these guys. See how loose they are?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the reason you're doing that is because if you get overly fussy with these things, you're never going to capture any of it because you're going to sit there and start thinking drawing and not sketching, right? But man, I could just do an overlay on these and boom, you know, you got a nice figure, you know. But look what he's doing. Wait, let me see if I can find the other ones. Let's see. I know there's other ones, you can look them up. But then if you look at, hang on. You know, how he's taking this idea into his character. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he went from here and leapt over to here, you know, based on that idea. You can see that connection. And look at, these are when he's probably back at the studio or whatever doing these, and look, it's still loose. Because you can go over those and you can flesh them out, but they're going to look beautiful and natural and in motion and all that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So next time, and I'll do a video on this, okay, because this is actually pretty simple. Think like that. You know, you want to just come in here and kind of go, just like he's doing here, where you're just sort of going, okay, what's the big masses here? Head, torso, and the torso is more or less this, right? Then you got this sort of inverted thing here. And then it's just a matter of going, okay, from a graphic perspective, that knee, and then that calf just kind of kicks out behind it. And if I can find those sort of shorthands for it, for that anatomy, I got something, correct? And loose and draw through the form. See how he's drawing through the form everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay. So think like that.
Okay.
I always try and think like that just because I love to draw. I just love drawing loose like that.
But just more gestural too.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely what it is. That's why, like,
Okay.
a lot of what you do in life drawing, why that's also a fundamental class. The way I look at it's fundamental. I mean, you got to have that. But the way I look at kind of what we're doing here, it's a lot of different things. But to me, it's sort of going. I have a big obsession with, or philosophy, whatever you want to call it, about teaching that it always has to connect to the real world. If it doesn't connect to the real world, it's useless. Okay. Life drawing and can connect to the real world, it does. But what happens is like a lot of people sort of go out of life drawing, they never really connect it to anything. When I taught life drawing, we'd go on some field trips and go to coffee shops and stuff. You know what I mean? So we had to kind of put it into practice with models who weren't models, right? And then so the way I look at this is why I talk about life drawing a lot in here is because I want to connect that in here, but go, hey, just like what you just said, that's just gestural, like life drawing. Yes, that is what it is. But now you're doing it with guys in motion. You're doing it with real life, not with somebody, you know, pretending to play volleyball in a pose for 20 minutes. That's a whole different thing. I want to get, you know, what a really good place to go is for that kind of thing is bowling alleys. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because it's an over and over process, right? They start here, right? Then they go here. Then they do that weird thing at the end where their legs kicked out one way. You know that thing?
Uh-huh.
That's a really weird pose that nobody ever strikes except at a bowling alley. And what's good is you got 20 lanes or whatever of people doing that motion over and over. So as soon as this guy's done, there's another one. And then what I do is I try and freeze frame it. I go, I'm having trouble with that part of it, right? So then every time somebody hits that, I add a little bit to my drawing, you know, or I do another one. But everybody's hitting poses for me over and over again, action poses. You know what I mean? And weird, complicated action poses. You know, so I can do a sort of step-by-step of that whole process and get all these really cool. And then a lot of times, you know, they get a strike and they do this and stuff like that, you know. And you can really get into a rhythm there. Because, you know, in baseball game probably be the same way. You know, somebody's up at bat all the time. Somebody's swinging all the time. That kind of thing, you know. Anything where there's a repetitive motion, or go to the mall, or well, now we can't go anywhere. But and just find a spot. Like I take usually this class we go to the block or someplace. Actually, now we go to farmers market. But I can sit there and I can just watch people endlessly walk by. What is that? That's a walk cycle in front of me constantly that I'm doing from life, right? And then I can go home and look at an animation walk cycle and kind of see how they relate to each other. Because I think you always need to relate that again to real life, because you can go look at a walk cycle, an animation walk cycle, doesn't necessarily mean you get it. You need to go look at real stuff, okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's
Good.
go. Let's go here. Went through that one. Okay. Yeah, got that one. Where's Richard Kim?
Here.
Okay, these are pretty good too. I think it's the same story here. Don't get too on expressions yet, you guys. We'll get to that. Like this one. Same thing, you know. So some of these, at some point, I'll feel like I've kind of said the same thing over and over, and I'll let you guys stop listening to me blather. But okay, so here, look. These marks on the hair, they feel random. We never want to make random marks, okay? So let's go. Structure that guy up a little bit. This is probably going to be a little higher. Break up the shape a little more. I'm going to pull this out a little. just to give it a little more interest. Build those glasses a little more geometrically. He's sort of looking down, so I'm gonna knock this down a little bit. Okay. Bottom of the nose is probably going to tilt down a little. Okay, so make a statement here with the mustache, okay? And this is good, this little shape here. I'm going to emphasize it a little harder. And then these, if he's got a scraggly little beard, see that? Oh, another thing, if you're going to do like this sort of 5 o'clock shadowy idea, that's probably just better to go and use the side of your pencil. And I usually just kind of rub it out a little bit. A little more. Like that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now, he's got, oops. Let's give him a little bit of, again. I'm just gonna mask this now. I'm not gonna do it with one linear. I'm gonna mask it. Just like I would with the side of my pencil, okay? Now, what I'm doing here is I'm gonna mask this in. And then after that, I'm also gonna use this now and put a little value in there, in his glasses, under his nose. Give his nose a little bit of value. Okay, I want to give that little core there. You guys know what I'm talking about with this little core with the hair, right? Yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, see how it just makes it shine a little more? And you'll see it all the time. Okay, so now I'm going to shrink down my brush a little bit. And now I can put a couple of these, you know, some stray hair in there, and that'll make it feel a little more natural. He's probably got some hair over here, probably too. Make him a little more standard, but it's all right. And then I'm not going to hit the glasses everywhere. I'm just going to hit them here and there. Okay, and then this needs to get a little structured up. It's like a jacket that comes over. Structure this up a little bit. So that's really a graphic symbol, that pocket. Sometimes I'll do a little graphic thing like right here, sort of indicate there's a zipper thing there. Hair is probably going to come down here a little bit, just because of gravity. Seam, front part of the jacket. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So what are we saying then? A little more structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think my pen just went off again. Hang on. Not that thing. Okay. Okay. So let me see what else here I got. Questions? Where's Aaron? That's Aaron. You here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, these I just want to get more a little more information here. Let's see. I like that you're doing like a lot of figures. But let's go. I'm going to kind of. No, I don't have coronavirus. Okay. Let's look at this one. Right idea. I think it's more of a proportional thing than anything. Okay. So let's look at this real quick. Okay, same thing. The glasses probably have a little more form to them. I'll just do these real quick. The eyes feel a little more made up. I like this. I like the little ball on the end of the nose. I like this. A little more structure to this chin. A little more shape of that ear in there. This arm, I don't know if that came in like that. It feels like it should go out here. Same thing with the hair that we just talked about. I won't go through all of it. You should have that, a little of that. You saw we're getting a little more structured up here? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, get those eyes a little more right. I put that little thing on the glasses to give them a little more structure. Or a little more mechanicalness to them, okay? And then start building your eye around that. There's going to be an eye line or eyelid, all that kind of stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
So just add that layer, a little more layer of, I don't like the word detail, secondary shape. Get that sort of thing structured up a little bit, and then you can start moving into it. It's a big shape, you move into the big shape to the smaller shapes. Okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of always the same story, really. Okay, where's, I'm going to jump over here. Elan.
Right here.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, these are interesting. What are these from, Elon?
They're from Earth's World, most of them, and then a little bit from the Sartorialist.
I gotta find the other ones too. I have some other ones for that. I can't think of the name of them. I'll find them though. Okay, so like this one. Like this one, we're getting a little bit of the, I don't really have that many problems with here. I think that cranium's a little narrow.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's, by the way, you guys, that's super common, okay? I've probably said that before. So this could go, this can go out a little more.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this, here's my main thing. These are starting again to feel like random mark making in his beard.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm struggling with.
So this beard is just like the hair we talked about on the head for the most part. It's rolling under this way, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got that part. It's just the more bottom parts.
And I don't know his beard, but let's knock this. Let's just say here's his beard shape.
Do you want me to upload the picture to the
Yeah,
drive?
you have it?
Yeah, I think so. Let me just pull it up.
You could make the random marks though with like curly hair, right?
No. What I usually do with curly hair is it tighter like we talked about earlier, where I have this tighter pattern, right? Then I look at it and I go, or like I was drawing this girl at the library actually on campus, and she had these big, I never see this anymore. She had kind of long hair, but it was that that kind of spiral curl. I don't know what that's called, where it kind of does this, you know, like a ribbon. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing, right? So I look at that, or I go, oh, it's the kind of curly hair that goes, you know, kind of does this sort of a little thing. It's a little more sort of random. But what I do when I first look at it is I go, okay, I analyze the shape, okay? And then I go, okay, now I got it. I'm going to put some of those in there. It's just like we did with leaves, where, you know, you sort of show some on the outside. It's that same idea. That's why I tell you guys when we're talking about trees and stuff, it's not about trees and stuff. It's about seeing complex things and breaking them into graphic ideas, okay? Did you load it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm starting to right now. Hold on, just.
Whenever I'm talking and I'm not clear, make sure that you know, go, well, I don't quite get that, okay? I'm going to break this up a little bit. I want to break up edges. Now I'm going to put a couple of stray hairs here and make them look a little less rigid.
All right, I uploaded the picture, Mike.
To the Drive-O?
Yeah, just to the, not to the people sketch folder, just the cited.
Wish you could just pull these off of here, but you can't. By the way, I made split pea soup in the Instapot last night. It took 15 minutes and it was awesome. Go get an
Instapots are the best.
I know they are.
They're great.
Okay, hang on. It's like a miracle, that thing. I'm like, there's no way it's going to taste good. And it cooked it for 5 minutes. That's all it cooked it for. It was like, this is insane.
I did honey barbecue chicken the other day in an Instapot.
Oh, really?
Bomb, yeah. Chicken broth. Don't put water. Put chicken broth.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
There it is. Okay. Man, the people they take pictures of on that Earth World one.
It's great.
I hope
Love
nobody's looking at that. It's like, oh, there's America.
Hey, Mike?
A certain part of America.
Somebody just
Hey,
said
Mike.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone got kicked.
Oh.
I think Emily's trying to get back in.
Okay. Hang on. All right. The problem with this is that I think I have to go back to my regular screen. So hang on a sec. Okay. Thanks for telling me that. Okay, good. We got all our people here. Good. Okay, let me go back to my screen. This is a good drawing, Elon.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so let's go. You guys overall are doing a really good job. And I know it's tough doing it this way. All right, so look, he's got a big sort of, look, there's a couple ways I can handle this.
Can you share the screen, Mike?
Oh, I'm not?
I don't
Me?
know. Yeah.
I just want to have a picture of me drawing. That's all. Everybody likes that. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go. Let's get a little less opaque. Okay, so I'm going to try and mask this a little bit because he does have some mask to this.
Yeah, he does.
So I might just kind of mass it like here, because you can see that mass right there where it goes from light to dark. You see that?
Yeah.
I might just play around with that a little bit, because he does have a very linear, and then out here, I want to get a little more random. Mine's not random yet enough. And then it rolls right over like that. That make sense?
Yeah.
And then I might just come in here and sort of mass all this together.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of mass this together in here. And then come in here and add my little, because the main thing here to me is that this whole top part, and then look, there's a shape right here. It's really good. And I'm just trying to find some shapes in here. And then the edge of, he's got a very ratty beard.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of lose it when I turn on the other drawing. Let's see if I can knock it down a little more. But what I'm going to try and do is come, okay, so here's what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
I think we made a selection, like a tiny pixel.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Well, it's always what I tell people to check first. I didn't check it. I like his glasses too. They look reflective.
Thank you.
Looks like you sort of added that. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is do a balance between finding these masses in his beard and then a little bit of this sort of interior stuff to get this sort of funky rattiness to the bottom of it. So I'm probably going to show, see if I show the rattiness on the bottom, it sort of explains the beard a little more.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's starting to make more.
Yeah, so then I can come in here and I'll add a little bit of it here and there based on what I'm looking at, which looks like a lot of this sort of shape language. Right? That. Yeah. Okay. And then here and there, they in between those shapes, there's a dark spot like that right there. Do you see that?
Yeah, it helps it unify it a little better.
Yeah. So I'm going to go in and sort of, first, here's 2 steps. Here's the mustache. Okay. Then this whole, and then this rolls over on itself, just like we were talking about with the hair bun and all that, or bangs, right? That rolls over on itself. Then you have this whole unit that's rolling back over into the bottom part of the beard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that.
It's a matter of me trying to find these masses. That's first. Big mass, here's how it shapes out. Big mass, darker mass. Then I can come in here and I can add on the edges, and then especially as it goes down to here, he's got this real wispy, ratty beard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like trees.
Yeah, it is. Because like down at the bottom, when I've said with trees, how you go, you know, down here, I'll show more individual leaf shapes.
Right.
Up here, and then, but in here I'm massing, and then I've massed this together. That's exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the whole thing with this kind of stuff, like I know I'm going to be a broken record here. It's not about trees. What I want your brain to start doing is to go, when you look at his beard, go, oh, that's just like the tree texture thing. And it all starts connecting.
Yeah,
you know
it's a
what I mean?
shape. Yeah.
I know it seems abstract, but it's not. After a while, you just start going, oh, that's just like that. Or that's just like when I'm doing a whole bunch of rocks and I'm not drawing all the rocks. It's just like this. It's just like that. It's just like doing ground texture. It's just like this. And everything starts connecting into a language. Because I'd argue that with what we're doing here, we could probably break this all down into 5 categories, maybe 7 to 10, and go, that problem you're looking at is just like trees and beards. That problem you're looking at is just like structural things like boats. That, you know what I mean, right? On and on and on. Okay, does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now with okay, so like with this guy down here,
Mm-hmm.
how are you starting that?
I started out kind of like the head and then the torso. Like definitely his more of his line of action first, because
Okay.
he has an interesting pose, and then draw out the torso to follow that line of action, and his head that connects to his neck and head.
One thing I'd say here is going to go a long way. We're getting a little wobbly, and I notice this a lot. I mean, it's just normal. Like these are feeling a little random, and they're also, look, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You see that?
Okay, yeah.
It's repetitive, right? It's repeating a shape. You know, there's going to be some, you know, pull folds and all that kind of stuff. Just sort of look at them and interpret them. I put that little, I like to wrap that. Anytime I can wrap something around like you did here, that's kind of important to me, because it starts to, look how I just gave it form just doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Then this is probably going to pull. So what tends to happen is what people start to do what you're doing here, which is just sort of making every line sort of wobbly. Really look at that. Now, another thing is if he's got his hands in his pockets, you know, I'm probably going to get a lot of mileage if that, you know, pulls away from the pant leg a little. You know what I'm talking about? You got your hands in there, so it's going to make a pull fold away from that hand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay? Even if I don't see it there, I'm going to try and probably get it in there. Yeah, comes up. Okay, then this, like this. I think this could sort of just come down like that. Like this, like this, and just clear. So clarity of shapes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So give me some clear shapes in here. That might be there. That. You know, again, here I might unify the top of this whole thing with the shadow value. That's just a simple graphic trick or trick. A little more. Now this, I'd probably pull it out. It feels a little narrow. A little more head up here. I'm going to give him a trucker hat just so I can separate the two. Give him a little thing on top. Little, whatever you call that. Little pull out of the under the hat.
Right.
Because that's compressing the hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now these, did these go straight like that, or did they go like up a little bit?
I think his was a little straight, but I have to.
It could have been. And then, you know, more structure on the shoes.
Right.
But that's always a thing. You know, they're like anything else. It's hard for me to explain this without being in class, but I'll have to do it. I'll show you. So anyway, like I said, I usually keep these things in the idea of sort of a wedge, you know, and then I can start to build it.
Mm. Yeah, I started off that way, but sometimes it's just the refining it a little bit is what I have trouble.
Yeah, it's a complicated shape. Okay. Okay, does that make sense? Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have. Oh. Okay, the rest of them feel like they're kind of the same idea. I mean, you're definitely leveling up. There was some in here, where are they? Like this is a cool one. I like this. Oops. Yeah. I like the way you stylized the hair on this guy. That's a good example of what we were just talking about with the curl thing.
Right.
Okay. It's a pretty good expression, that one on the left.
Oh, thank you.
I'm reading that. Expressions are tricky, man. It's the reason, you know why, one of the reasons I don't like anime so much? It's because I can't stand the expressions in it. They're so cheesy. You know what I mean? It's one of the reasons I can't stand that type of stuff. Yeah, so see how you kind of mask that?
Yeah.
Now that feels like curly hair to me, but it feels, you know, it's simplified. So it reads pretty good. I like this, like here, it might even go a little more. Like I might just give this a little more value under here.
Yeah.
But I'm still following your form, right? See, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, you know, that's about it, okay? This is good. This is starting to feel nice and balanced. This, I like this. Now, this is probably going to do that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that looks more
And
symmetric.
then maybe, and sometimes I'll gather that even if it's not doing that. And this is probably might get a little bit of a gather right there over the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This, give me a little bit of just a, you know, even if it's not there, you know, I might put something on there to make it look a little more purse-like or bag-like or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This up here looks pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
This is starting to get pretty balanced. Look at that when you take away. Look how little we can have right there and it still works.
Yeah, that
This
definitely
guy
works.
right here, right? And we could just darken this. In the cheek mask. A little bit of shadow. A little bit of hair here. And look at it. It's like nothing there, but it holds together. Why? It's a nice solid graphic shape, okay?
It's just enough information.
Yeah. And then you can build into it if you want to add more stuff to it. Cool. You know? All right. That all makes sense, correct?
That makes sense. Thank you.
James. Now I see James.
What's that?
Where you at in here, James?
Right here.
No. I'm like, you know, gotta pull up my thing. Well, maybe this is it. Yeah. All right. So just went through that one. Went through that one. Just went through that one. Where's Teresa Cortez? You in here?
Yep, I'm here. Present.
Same thing here. We're getting kind of stylized. Let me find one. Like here, we're getting really stylized. And I want to get a little more, initially, I want you guys to understand how this works, and then we can get stylized. Does that make sense? Somebody's got a radio on or something. Okay. Does that make sense what I just said?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at this. It feels like we're pulling shape language from somewhere. Okay. Okay, so like here, you're going to get more this cheek mask. Let me knock this down. And then you're not going to get this big giant eye, okay? You're going to get, you know, more of a normal sized eye. You get a little bit of cheek mask. Actually, that ear would be lower because they basically line up at the top of the eye. Okay, then this. See this spiky stuff? That's from anime, correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
I just added those in there.
Yeah, it feels very much like an anime thing. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get a little more. Oops, a little more of that. You know, and then when you're wrapping a serpent or something around here, take advantage of this and go like that, and then overlap that line like that.
Mhm.
So see how it gives it a little bit of mass?
Mhm.
Let's go in here. What's all that noise?
What noise?
No, it's not you. I don't think. Somebody's got a lot of noise. All right. Who's got something on that I can hear?
Hold on. Ah!
Was it me?
I don't know. Okay, see how we kind of take them a little more realistic? A little shorter hair. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we want to stay a little bit. Okay, so here's what we want to do. We want to interpret the shapes that we're seeing from a real source, okay? And like here, you're going to get a little shadow under the neck. Maybe here, maybe a little here. The ball of the nose will come down a little, under a little, and so on and so forth, okay? So we want to interpret the shapes we're seeing, not kind of apply a shape language to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of interpret what you're seeing, and yes, we will get to stylization, but right now you've really got to understand how to break down people, okay? Or whatever, not just people. Who have I missed?
Did you do mine already?
Who is that?
Emily.
Emily. Oh, no, it's right. It's because you're not in a folder, that's why. Oh yeah, these are great. What are these from?
They were from the easel.
I love that.
Yeah, some of them were from the easel. Some of them I found. Two of them I found on Pinterest.
Are you on my camera?
I am on camera, I believe.
You're not popping up. That's weird. Where are you at? Oh wait, let's do this. James. I'm gonna get you next. What's your name again? Say it again. Oh,
Emily.
Emily. Why am I not seeing you?
On camera?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find you.
We have two Emily's, Mike.
Is Emily in the car? Is that the Emily I'm talking to?
Yeah.
Wow. How come you're in a car?
Because my boyfriend had to leave his house, and so I had to leave too.
Oh, you should have told me that, because I would have got you in front a little bit if you're sitting in a car. Because I actually appreciate that you're making that much of an effort. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is important to me, so.
Okay, good. It's important to me too. Very important to me. These are really nice sketches. Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, really, and these are all from the easel thing?
2 or 3 of them I found on Pinterest.
Okay.
Sometimes I look on Pinterest for reference drawings.
Yeah, wherever right now, anything goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can sketch people in your house, that's great. I mean, they're really nice drawings, and what I really like about them is they're really balanced. Okay.
Thank you.
Pull up the other ones. I mean, the only thing. And what's your major?
I'm trying to get my illustration certificate.
Oh, illustration. What do you want to do?
I'd like to work on staff as an illustrator and a designer. Not quite sure exactly, but I think I'm headed more towards prop designing.
Head towards broad.
Mm-hmm.
Good skill set. It looks like you're starting to have a really good base skill set. And to me, when you do that, did I talk to you guys about the Peter Ellenshaw guy? I didn't, right?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to put that documentary up. I just found it the other night. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I've always known who he was when I was a kid because he's one of the big Disney guys. I had no idea of this guy's monster skill set. I knew he had a monster skill set, but not how crazy it was. He started off as like a painter, and then he sort of, I think he was teaching himself or something. He met like he apprenticed to like a map painter, and this is way back in like the 30s or 40s. Okay, where they did all that stuff by hand. They painted on glass and all that stuff. And he was just an absolute monster at it. And then, you know, I'll let you watch the documentary because it's actually long, which is cool. And fast forward, he started working for Walt here in California because he's from England.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so good that he had the, you know, he was looking at the shots from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and he's going, that doesn't look, you know, that looks like crap. You know what I mean? He didn't tell them that because he was still like nobody yet. But he did a couple of passes of sketches, you know, and then he didn't really say nothing about it because he's like, I don't want to piss anybody off. But whatever, they got into the food chain somehow there. And when they were having a screening one day, Walt came in, he looked at it, and he's like, yeah, that ain't working. He goes, hey, that Peter Ellenshaw guy, he did a couple of sketches. You should look at those. And then from there, and then it pissed off the art director and everybody, but whatever, right? He started becoming the visual effects supervisor. He started doing this. He started doing that. Why? Because he had a really good, solid, fundamental skill set, right?
Yeah.
He jumped into all these other things.
Yeah. I think why I wanted to major in illustration or get my certificate is because I saw all the different units of all the different skill sets that I could try while getting that certificate. So.
What I think, it's changed, right? When I was at Art Center, I don't think they had an entertainment program or anything. I know they didn't have a major. Mm-hmm. And you would just sort of, I was an illustration major, so I could take a lot of electives, okay? So, but I would take industrial design classes. I took maybe one, I don't know, entertainment class, maybe two, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But mostly I was learning industrial design because what people don't understand is entertainment design, the headwaters for that is industrial design, basically, okay? And it served me well because then I could come out and I could jump onto a theme park and then jump into toy design, and then jump into set design, and then jump into TV design, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's design, drawing, and painting. If you understand those things, you got a pretty, and now you'd have to add 3D to that. Uh-huh. You guys are being asked to know so many skill sets that I think it's actually kind of crazy what they're asking young people to do now. You know, say, hey, we want you to know film editing and 3D and draw your ass off, paint your ass off, and design your ass off, and on and on and on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what the world is, you know. But I'd argue that if you got a good fundamental skill set, if you go into Frank's class, you're going to go, I get form. These are basic shapes, and I'm just going to shape them into a figure, or I'm going to shape them into a dragon, or whatever it is. And you'll understand that as a concept. Does that make sense? I like illustration because, to your point, I think it's a broad net that I can put a lot of different ideas into and do a lot of different stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So good. So I want to talk to you at some point, and let's kind of figure out the plan a little bit. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'd like that a lot. Thank you.
So let's just real quick. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of comments on these. I want you to keep doing them. Sort of, this is really nice. Think about your folds. I think you're doing a pretty good job, but think about those a little more. Maybe get them a little more simplified. I mean, they're working.
Yeah.
But I'd like.
I remember you told me about like you need to draw the folds from wherever there's like where it's being pulled at.
Yes.
So I remembered that as I was drawing. I do agree with you. I think I put like a lot of folds.
Yeah, I don't think it's like so much, but I think like this, her foot is over this one. I'm looking at this one. Her foot is like here, basically, right? Okay, number one, I think this could be a little longer. Feels a little short.
Yeah.
But that foot is there. So this fold right here is actually telling just that. See that? That's telling the viewer there's a mass under there that's leading to that foot. It's just a little dink, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Now you could put, you're still going to get one maybe here and that kind of thing. But you've got to be really careful with folds. They got to be really descriptive. And then if you kind of look at it and go, I need a little more information in there, boom, and I'll put a little whatever, right? I mean, I think that's the main thing I would work on right now. Like, this is nice. I like this one. See how that works on this guy's leg?
Yeah.
I love the way that kind of pulls away from his crotch, like, and then there'd probably be one right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is going to gather before it goes into his boot, which you basically are doing a little bit. I did a little too much, but, you know, and then I might get one pulling here, maybe. Pull there. You know, something like that. Okay? Simplification. What you're doing already, I just want to see a little more of it. Okay?
Okay.
How come yours has a different name on your file, doesn't it? Oh, Emily M2. Okay. All right. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Where's James? James, do you have stuff in here?
That's in the drive. I didn't get in until later though.
Ah! Why?
I didn't just went to bed. I wasn't thinking.
Really?
Yeah,
You know that's not a good excuse, right?
I know. Oh, Emily, someone's asking what you draw. What you drew them with in the chat.
So I drew with just a regular like Bic pen and scanned it with my printer. And for some of the shadows, I used like one of my Copic markers, I think.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried not to like go too far into like light and shadow and try and focus on the people and like drawing the shapes of the people.
Yeah.
I can get carried away.
That's a good point, because like what people tend to do, again, I'm going back to this fundamental discussion all the time where it's like people tend to go, I want to do this tricky thing that I see entertainment designers do or whatever, and it's like, okay, but the problem is you don't understand form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys can hear me, right? Yes?
Yeah.
They don't understand form, so they're jumping to tricks. And it's like, that's why I've been telling you guys, like, initially, I'm like, I just want line, because I want you to make that thing work with your line weight and your line quality. You need to have that. If you got to go in and put all this other stuff in it, on it, to make it work, it's just not, it's not working. Does that make sense? I go back, if you guys go on Steven Silver's Instagram page, he's been doing some work for, I guess they're rebooting Scooby-Doo or something. And he's doing these really clean, tight character design cleanups that are like, if you don't have your drawing shit together on that, it will not work. And his are solid, man. You know what I mean? And he doesn't even hardly put any line weight on them or anything. He just cleans them up with his super clean. Right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's because they're so balanced. Okay, so let me get one more. Okay, so some of these I'll skip over because I've already gone over the same principles. Okay? I don't want to beat a dead horse. James.
Yes.
I'm going to shoot you for being late. From now on, always have these in there at least an hour before class. And most of you, I think, did. Now, I might just put a random assignment on there, so don't freak out. It's actually going to just be so I can just give all you guys 10 points for all this stuff. Today's.
Mike, I actually put mine in the original drive.
Who's that?
Jessica.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay.
Is that, or were they landscape stuff or like place stuff?
They're not really landscapes. They're based off of pictures, but two of them have people. One had like really gnarly looking, like, I tried to do a cat, like a really fluffy cat, and it came out really gross. So I redid that one in like a different pose. I did another cat. So two people and then two cats.
Okay, let me go. Because I got to find. James, did you put it in people sketches?
Yes.
All right. Oh, here you go. Okay, so like here, oh shoot. What happened? Hang on. Let's get this a little smaller. Where was this from, James?
Easel reference photos.
Oh, okay. You see, we got a little bit of a proportional issue here. Okay. So I'm guessing that this no. That this was a little longer. This whole unit here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's just a proportional thing. On proportions normal, everybody has trouble with it. Try and get these things, you know, maybe think of these things as just simpler forms right off the bat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So see how if we simplify it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put a little bit of a...
Okay, yeah, that looks good.
And then I'll put this in, like you started to do it, I'll put this form. Look, this is another interesting thing. If this form is folding and sort of coming in front of itself, I can overlap this line and I'll get a little bit of depth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then again, this is an ellipse right here, okay? Remember that. This arm's pretty good. Was she dancing or something? What was her theme? I don't remember.
It was like a Indian dress.
I'm going to put her hand back here like it's, you know, like a dance move or something. And then here, not bad. I'm going to go a little more brow. This is all pretty good, actually. I don't think I popped that lip out quite so much. Mine's a little long. Again, that cheek mass right there is really important. When they're younger, you don't want to hit it too hard. And then this, did she have curly hair?
Yeah.
So, you know, then this can break really nice here and kind of maybe go down over her arm a little bit. Love this. Because now what I could do is I could go, this could become a darker value.
Oh, okay, and just pop it out the face more.
Yeah, and it'll pop her face out against it. You know, sometimes I play with that and I lose the line all right there and I let the value just hold it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little more structured up. Not a whole lot. Like you have a lot of good things going on here. You know, and then, you know, we'll get a little, like again, where's her leg at? There's probably a leg here, maybe over here.
I have a question about the dress.
Yeah.
So how are you getting the angle of that oval? Like, how do you know where the eye level is?
That's a good question. Experience, to be honest. But if you want to think of it, what I'm trying to get you guys to do is see that stuff, okay? Now, when I look at the dress, if I was looking at this dress in reality, right? The dress would come down like this, let's say, and it would have a curve, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if I see that curve, I know if I just follow that through, this curve is my guide, then that's my ellipse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm just following the curve to its logical conclusion, I guess. Because
Okay.
what I don't want you guys to start doing when you're doing like this kind of drawing, and by the way, there's a place for what I'm about to say, it just isn't what we're doing. I don't want you to start going, because I see people do this kind of stuff. where they go, okay, I want to put a ground plane here. And then I'm going to build my ellipse in there. That's totally fine for a different kind of thing. That's not, you don't want to rely on that all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That can really get you screwed up. And it can really get you uptight and stiff.
So it essentially feels right. Like this is where you feel it should be.
What is?
In this case, because I guess we're going quicker and more gesturally, you kind of feel like that is where it should be.
Well, I'm just following the curve. Like if I see this curve doing that, I'm seeing the front of the curve on the dress like that. Correct?
Yeah.
So if I just follow that curve around, there's my ellipse.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
So I'm just pulling it from that. Now, sometimes it helps me to just ghost that in there. And that will, it just helps me to think of it as being a round form and everything's wrapping around this round form. Does that make sense?
I was kind of looking at it differently. I thought you had drawn it so you're like looking into the skirt, but the outer edge is downwards.
I'm looking at it that this does that. And here's the front edge. But what I'm doing is I'm making a point here that, like, you got to remember that goes, there's an interior on the other side around that. There's a volume to that.
Right. We can't see the other side, so we wouldn't be looking up into it.
I'm looking down at it this way.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes, you know, you ghost those things in there like that because, like, if this dress had a form around it, like, let's say I said before, where it's kind of doing this pleated thing, then I know it's going to squash right there. It's going to squash right there. And then look, if I just pull these up, I can create my pleats out of that. So now what I'm really seeing is this, you know, my pleated form, and it's wrapping around the form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the other thing I use that for, and we'll do some animal stuff later on. If I'm drawing an animal with fur, and I'm just going to say this is the torso of the animal. Okay, does that make sense? Here's the back leg. Here's the foreground leg. Could be a dog, could be anything. But this is the same idea. This is a round cylindrical form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to happen here is if I start to draw fur on this thing, it's going to wrap around this form. So I know that my fur is going to wrap around the form correctly. If you don't do that, then people, you know, put this form here, then they just start, you know, randomly putting fur on it. And it's like, that's not wrapping around this form. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I know I say that makes sense too much. I know. I can't help it. Okay, I'll do like one. Let me see if I can find another one because I don't want to get too repetitive.
I have a quick question.
Okay, good.
Okay, about that last figure, you don't need to pull it back up, but if there were shoes showing, would it be helpful to draw or ghost in a bit of the figure's legs just so you could see where those shoes should be and with respect to everything else?
I think right now, sure. And I think even later, I mean, if that helps you to place the form, I think it's all good. You know what I mean? Just make sure when you do that, you just really just ghost it so it'll sort of disappear as you build the drawing.
Okay.
What you don't want to do is do that and then go, you know, put it so dark and everything that it's there at the end of the drawing. And the other thing you don't want to do is go in and erase all that stuff. Don't do that. Just do it nice and light and loose, right? And it'll just sort of, it'll actually add to the volume and the beautiful, like, that structured, beautiful drawing thing that you're doing. I just love that. You know, I don't want to see, you know, if you go and start erasing things out, trying to clean everything up, you destroy the drawing more or less. You know what I mean? What we want to get to here, and we'll keep, you know, thinking about this, is that we want to be able to make I used to do this all the time where I'd go to lunch. I'd do drawings on whatever was around, napkins, whatever. And those were punchy enough drawings where I could go into a meeting after lunch and I could just pin those up on the wall and have a discussion around them. They were fine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can also, you could do a little bit there then, but you know, now you could scan them real quick, throw them up on a sheet, splash a little digital color on them, and boom, you got a presentation that you made while you're eating a burger, which is really valuable. And the other thing is really valuable is that you can have a discussion what I want you guys to get to is the way I feel when I'm talking to people, or it could be you guys. I'm doing the same thing here that I did in my career, where I'm going, showing you guys stuff. And if you ever notice, I'm much more comfortable showing you as opposed to just talking about it, okay? Because I'm very comfortable communicating through drawing. I'm just really comfortable with it. I'm actually more comfortable with that probably than talking. I like that. And I used to love, that's one reason I like being in the classroom, or even doing it this way, where we can just have this discussion and, and talk visually. I want you to have that because it's so valuable if you go into meetings, or just as you're going through your workday where somebody goes, hey, I'm thinking this, and you go, hey, I got an idea. How about this? And you normally, if I'm an art, like when I was art directing people, if I said that, I'm expecting to come back tomorrow and get some ideas. Sometimes people just throw them down right in front of you and go, I got this cool idea. Well, he just cut a day off my schedule. Man. You know how much I appreciate that? A day in this world is a lot, okay? And I'm not going to tell anybody that. I'm going to go, hey, we're working on the sketches right now. Whoever else I'm working with, other teams I'm working with, I'm going, hey, he's going to have some stuff tomorrow. I'm not going to tell him I already got some good ideas from him, because then I'm ahead. I'm like a day ahead or 2 days ahead. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's hugely valuable being able to draw. One of the things I saw as I was exiting that part of my career, which was only, 2 years ago maybe, is I was really, when I was looking at portfolios, man, it's just drawing and this sketching skill, it is not that common anymore, okay? It's getting harder and harder to find. So I get people who can sketch half-assed, but it's like I wanted people who are really good, okay? Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Fundamental skill set.
Yes.
This is a fundamental skill set. Jessica, where did you say yours was? Jessica M? Oh, they're in the drive, right?
Excuse me, may I have a question?
Yeah.
So in a way, in portfolio-wise, people need to show a lot of sketches that they are done, no matter how badly or like.
No.
Well, at least, I mean, like
You don't want anything. You don't want anything bad in your portfolio.
Okay, yeah, no. But like,
and by the way, you don't need to show 10 pages of roughs. It's how you lay it out in your portfolio. I think I told you guys, I always had this BS move that I would do. I'd always have a sketchbook with me. I'd nail the interview, look at my portfolio. I'd ask them for some information, or they'd give me some information. This is always at the end of the interview. And I go, oh, let me write that down. I'd open up my sketchbook and they go, oh, what's that? And they'd look at my sketchbook asking them to. And then they go, these are cool. Like if it's somebody like me, like if you came in and interviewed with me and you had a sketchbook, I'm like, can I see a sketchbook? I'm going to do it right off the bat. And if you got a kick-ass sketchbook, man, I'm into it. You know what I mean? I'm into it. Like I'm geeking out on it. It's, like a good art director, I think, should be geeking out on people's work. You're potentially going, I can hire this guy and work with this guy. He's awesome. Okay. So it's a big skill set, but it's also, it's just a good move. I know one guy, I forgot who it was. He got hired, I think, over at Disney just on his sketchbook because they're like, holy crap, this guy's good, right? You don't have to show him anything else. Hang on, I want to find one more.
So, I mean, well, I know, but like, that's why I was wondering about why you say that is like, people nowadays, you mentioned about they need like more sketches, as like specifically speaking,
Sketches show me a couple of things. Sketches show me that you can think quickly, that you have ideas, and that you can ideate quickly. Okay?
Okay.
Hey,
so
Jessica,
it's a type of.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I'm sorry. But like, yeah. So in a way, it's like it's some sort of skills that you need to have.
Yes.
For yeah.
You just need to have that. I mean, how are you going to communicate any of your ideas if you can't quickly communicate your ideas? Okay. And I probably told you this too, but I made the mistake one time of hiring a guy, and I've always categorized it now: sketchers and drawers. And I go, I need a bunch of ideas. I think I told you this. I had the one girl who was the opposite end of this, who I was told I should fire when I took over the department. And I said, I don't do that unless I know who they are, blah, blah. Turned out she was absolutely amazing, would do these pages and pages of just beautiful thumbnails, super simple, great ideas. Had another person, another guy hired, and I go, same thing. I need ideas for a meeting. I come back 5 hours later. He's sitting there on his second drawing. It was like, dude, you're gone. Like, I can't do this. I can't give you, this isn't drawing, this is sketching. You can always take a sketch to a finished drawing. That you got to have that speed, man. And I'm telling you, the industry is fast. I don't like to make this all about speed, by the way. I'm not worried about you guys. I don't want you guys spending an hour on a drawing. But right now, while you're working through things, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, those are all fine, okay? Because I'm just telling you, if we get a good methodology going here, then the speed will just happen. That's how it works, okay? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
How long will it take you to do this drawing?
Probably like 40 minutes.
Okay, let's go a little shorter. It's a really nice drawing.
Thank you.
Let's do a little more, let's finish.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why at the end I was looking at it, I was like, God, it looks like almost like rotoscope. I want something like more gestural, I guess.
Yeah, so just I think it's a really nice drawing. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. But let's get it a little less fleshed, more, do what I just said, a little more sketch, a little less finished drawing.
So actually, I was gonna say, I'm always drawing faces. I paint faces all the time, so that was the quickest part. It's more like just like when we were doing landscapes, like when we were in Olvera Street, I did that giant gridiron gazebo. And I don't know why, but figures like that just take me forever. And I think it's just like the straight lines. I don't know what it is, but I was just like losing my mind. Like just even to that little that holder where the T is, I was just like, why? It feels like it should be so simple.
The weird thing about this whole process is like when you see people, and it's the same thing with like music or anything. When people are doing it right, it looks easy.
Yeah.
And it's that simplicity. Like I'm always looking at people. I can't remember who I was looking at just recently. Some beautiful, amazing drawing or whatever, and I'm looking at it and I go, God, there's just nothing to this.
Yeah.
But look at John Singer Sargent's paintings. I mean, there's no detail or anything in those things.
Yeah,
They're
I know.
as simple as it gets, and they look insanely complex. You know what I mean? Getting to that level is what we're trying to do, and the reason I'm constantly like break this down to its simplest shape, because once you learn how to do that, then you can take it as far to finish as you want or whatever you want. Okay. But you got to get that. And what I was going to say is I'll post I have a video from a trip to March Field, and it sort of talks about that a little bit because when I shift to drawing like at March Field, like mechanical things, in that case planes, I shift my skill set to a different sort of skill set, which becomes very sweepy. Like when I'm doing a line, I ghost it, then I drop that line, and I can get a really clean line. Or the same thing with a curve. You can anchor off your elbow, you can anchor off your wrist, but if you're out on the location, you can't, so you just sort of ghost it. Same thing with ellipses, and then what I do is I get really good at that over the years, and I got my pin. I usually draw a pin there for some reason. And then I'll go, okay, my line I'm going to heavy up, I just keep going whoop, right over it, boom, boom, and I keep building it up because I'm just hitting that exact line over and over again because I got that control.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you might want to do is, I think, have we talked about this? Is like you can look at my screen real quick. You can go like straight lines, hang on. Straight lines, like ghost them, drop them, that's a bad one. And then try and do another one right underneath it and end and space them the same distance and have them end at the same point. Okay? I know that sounds silly. It's not. It's a really good control exercise. Okay? I had an old fart teacher one time told me that, and I go, this is BS. But I did it because he made me do it. Man, like in a week, my stuff started getting way more control.
Yeah.
And then do it at different angles, like at awkward angles. I usually don't say draw at awkward angles, but in this case, do it. So then I'll do it this way and try and get them all lined up and end, on the same point, right? Try them this way, and then do the same thing with ellipses. Ghost it and build an ellipse. All sorts of different ellipses. It'll start to help you with your mechanical drawing.
Okay.
Because when I do that sort of thing, like you're just talking about with that gazebo, you know, I'm putting that kind of overall shape in, and then I'm clipping off the edges, and then I'm starting to build my gazebo out of that hexagon or whatever that's called, okay? So actually it should come up, and then I balance it. And then, like, I'm not sitting there trying to get it perfect the first time. I'm sort of ghosting it, even with a pin. And then once I go, okay, these are working pretty good from a spatial relationship place and all that, then I'll come in and go, boom, that one. Boom, that one. Boom, that one. And I start to clean it up that way. You'll see it in the video I'm going to put up of March Field.
Okay.
So I'll go through the whole process of drawing a plane, and you'll see how that all works. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Other questions?
I guess being a little bit more gestural about the clothing. I felt like at a certain point I was like, the fold just felt a little much.
I don't know about so much on this one because you're really doing it more through value, which I don't think is a bad thing. What I always call that is strategic folds. Try to get your strategic folds in there. Okay. So like when you're doing when I'm doing like this side view of a knee, I always use this as an example. Somebody sitting sideways. And there's their pant leg. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then this comes down. I'm going to do this all half aspect. Okay, so we know we're going to have a radiating fold there, correct?
Yeah.
Then there's a tension point right here that pulls this across your knee. That to me is a strategic fold. This happens all the time. The other one is from your behind, it'll pull out. A couple of them will pull out like that. See how little I can do and it starts to read a little better?
Yeah.
What I want you to start doing is simplifying and going, what is the strategic folds I need in that, right? And the main ones I would say are the ones that are like, if I do this, see how that's pulling away?
Yeah.
That's a strategic fold to me because that's telling you, if I'm sitting on a counter leaning forward, I'm going to get that one under there, under my arm, right?
Okay.
That is really important because that's really coming from the shoulder pulling forward, really.
Yeah.
Right? That's a mass under the, if you look at, I was fascinated when I was at Fullerton, I was taking art history, and they'd show like that Nike Samothrace or Winged Victory or whatever it is, that beautiful Greek sculpture, and the head's gone, and it's, she's got all her drapery blown in the wind over her, and it's stone, right? Carved, and I look at that and go, that's insane. You know what I mean? But if you look at a lot of those things from classical antiquity and all that, Michelangelo, all those guys, they really will do things like the Pietà or whatever, where her knee is out and that drapery drapes over that knee, maybe over to the other knee, right? Well, you just solved a bunch of problems there because he didn't have to put all that anatomy in there. That mass under there and the way that drapery pulls across it suggests all that anatomy under there, right?
Yeah.
And they're being very descriptive in how they're doing that. You know, they're really thinking about, like, I got to show, like with Winged Victory, how that's blowing across her form. It's going to blow across her form in a certain way, right? But you're actually simplifying. If you look at it, I mean, it looks crazy, but if you look at it, you know, they did simplify it, okay? And they hit those key strategic things. Another strategic one for me, if I can get it, depends on where my eye level is. You know, if I can get a little flip, where maybe the pants, I get that little flip right there. Why? Because that'll wrap it around the other side, right?
Yeah.
And then, it's going to do this to me again. God, I hate it when it does that. Hang on. Hopefully we're good again. All right. There we go. Okay. So you know, and then this shirt would be hanging over this. So there's my fold right there, maybe, right? Maybe here it's going to gather a little bit, you know, when you're bent over, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably might pull away from the form. You know, if I have an arm and a t-shirt sleeve, you know, depending on where the arm is, it might pull back like that. You know, it might have a pull fold this way. Like all that kind of stuff. And it's so simple, but you just have to learn. What you always have to do with this is you have to learn how things work. And I don't mean going and like going, I'm going to go read a book this thick on drapery. Go look at it. That's why we have to go from life all the time, right? Because then we have it right in front of us. And then go, don't just go, okay, I'm going to draw that over there that looks, and I'm going to make it look cool. That's great. No. Go, why does that fold happen? Why does that keep happening? Why do we keep seeing that? Oh, because it's pulling away from the knee. Okay, I got it. That's in my toolbox. It's in my toolbox. How does that form right here? Oh, because that form's pulling forward. Boom, that's in my toolbox. And very quickly, within a week, you can build a really big language around almost anything. Okay? But what you want to do is put those little, it's your Legos, man. You're throwing all these Legos in your box. Because then you can pull them out and go, I want to make the Empire State Building. Because you have all these things in there, shape language, mechanics, logic, language, all that stuff. It's all in there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
At some point, you stop even thinking about it. Something sometimes challenges you and you go, whoa, I don't know how to handle that. That's different, okay? I draw so much from life. I've got a huge shape language in my head now. I'm not that I don't hit things where I go, man, I don't know how to handle that. I got to figure that out. But usually not, okay? And then that also allows you to draw out of your head and all that kind of stuff, okay? And then eventually you want to get these where you're just not even really, you know, it's second nature, right? You want it to be second nature. That's my thing. When I was learning is like I go, I want to be able to be super spontaneous, super in the moment, and super not thinking about it. I want it to be like music where you sit down with somebody and go, hey, I got this thing in E. And some of you, okay, cool, I got it. It's in E, I got it. And you just instantly start making something. That's what I wanted painting to be for me, okay? I don't have to overthink it to death, all right? Because it's freedom. You know? It's freedom. I mean, there's nothing more free to me. The only time you're free of your own crap is when you're drawing, right? Because you're just like when you're warmed up, and this is how it feels to me. When you're warmed up and you're painting or drawing or whatever, it just feels like you're free, like you're just flying, like your mind's loose, everything's free. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm so addicted. Okay, because I like that feeling. Okay, it feels superhero-ish to me. I love it. Okay, but man, if you do this like for 2 or 3 hours, you will see your drawings improve like immensely, especially from life. Okay, you just go out and go, you start drawing like I do in the morning. All of a sudden, I go, holy crap! It's 3 o'clock, and I've been drawing for 6 hours. Man, by the end of that 6 hours, I'm so crazy warmed up, and I'm learning new things all of a sudden because all these things sort of open up to you because you're just so crazy. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be warmed up. Okay, you've got to get warmed up. Now, that's not to say don't go, hey, I got 15 minutes, I'm gonna sit here and draw. Because I'm hopefully you get addicted to this and you're like I am, where you're like, you just constantly want to draw. So if you sit down for 5 minutes, you start drawing. You know what I mean? Simple sketch kit that you will access all the time. Okay, that'll make you work. Other questions? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys. I just want more of this. I want more based on what we just talked about. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mike.
Go ahead.
I had uploaded mine a little bit late. I don't know if that disqualifies me from...
From here on out, it will.
Okay.
From now on, you guys, I want these in there in half an hour before class. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
I have to, before this all happens, I have to spend, I don't know, half an hour or whatever it is. And I got to download everything. I put them in organized photos or folders. I set up my file here to draw on. So when we get going, I'm not sitting here fumbling around, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
okay?
same here, Mike. I uploaded mine late too.
All right. Well, is there anything on them that you think I'm going to comment on differently than what I've been talking? I think
No, I think you've covered everything, I think,
yeah,
so far.
I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. You know, it's a little different when you're online.
I guess I do have a question about line control.
Uh-huh.
As I'm drawing faces, like smaller faces, it's a lot more difficult for me versus like big gesture drawings in Jim's class.
If you're doing smaller, then I would probably, you're going to reduce the amount of information you're going to put in there. So it's kind of like what we did earlier, and I have no idea where this drawing is. Hang on. There it is. So look, this is a fairly small drawing, okay? This one. And okay, so if I'm gonna go smaller, I'm probably gonna do something more like this. There's a couple ways I would use a drawing like this. One is, if it's smaller, I'm gonna reduce my information. Also, if this guy was further back in the crowd, this is how I'm gonna handle my figures, probably about in the middle ground. Or maybe even a little further than that. I'm not gonna overdo anything, okay? Now, so when you're doing these smaller things, keep your graphic information a little less. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Now, if I got closer with this guy, like this would probably be fine if he's further away or if I'm working small. That's probably enough. If I get a little closer, you know, then I might go, you know, I'm going to put that eye in there. I'm going to let you see that eye a little more. Might put a little bit of that zygomatic arch, a little more of that. Show that bottom lip a little more. You know, maybe give the shadow value into here. A little more information around his hair. And see how I can start building it up more information?
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep it. If you're doing these little small things, you don't need a lot. You don't want a lot of information, okay? We don't want to overdo the information anyway. What we want to do is do drawings that like people look at and think there's all this information in them, that think they're very complicated, but they're not, okay?
Okay, and I know digitally, we kind of, with the Wacom pens, we kind of have to hold our styluses conventionally.
Yeah, not like this.
Right, but if we're drawing like that, is it overhand or underhand?
What I do sometimes, okay, I do this with pen in general. So I equate this to the pen. It's a little, now it's a little less, you know, it's more of a line thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with pen or pencil, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but with pencil, I usually start the drawing way back here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then I go here. Then I might get really up close here and start doing stuff. And then when I'm gonna put in, you know, start tightening things up, I go here. Okay. Now, when I'm drawing on here, you know, a lot of times I start back here just like I do on the pencil back here, only this way, overhand, right? That way, I can't really get that overly stiff. It's just hard. It's the same sort of thing I get when I'm doing this, but I'm just way back here.
Okay.
I can only get so much control here, and I don't want 100% control when I first start. And I can only get so pressure, so that's also going to keep me from doing really heavy lines too early, because I don't want to do that.
Okay.
And then eventually I'll go this way. I'll get up here a little more.
Okay, would you say you do like I think you call it like the primary and secondary, I don't want to say details, but like you do those shapes really loose?
Yeah.
And then once you get into maybe like the nostrils of the face or the tighter corners of the lips.
If I took this guy and I just kept putting shapes on here, you can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I start, you know, and I got the pen back here. And I just keep going. I'm just looking for stuff right now. That's all I'm doing. And then I go, okay, I'm starting to I want to make his nose a little more broken. He looks like maybe he's tougher guy. And then, you know, maybe I'll go, I'm not going to give him any hair. I don't want him to have hair. Okay, then I'm going to come in here more like this and then go, okay, I kind of like this. I'm going to give him some eyes in there. And I'm just, you know what I'm doing? This is what I always say it is. Say I'm starting to like refine.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I always say it is, look, and then I'm going to refine things that aren't working. I'm going to reshape things, you know, whatever. Give them some hair if I want. The way I look at it is it's pattern recognition. It's the same. I'm trading in the same thing that when you look at a cloud, you see a unicorn chasing a bulldog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your brain is hardwired to find pattern, okay? It's how you navigate the world. If all of a sudden the world is abstract tomorrow, you wouldn't know what the hell you were doing.
Right.
Your brain needs pattern. So what I do is I throw down sort of a mist. I always call it smoke, which is all this super early line stuff. And then I pull my pattern recognition out of that mist. Does that make sense?
Okay. So you don't really care if the really light lines in the very beginning are just kind of a mess.
No, I want them to be a mess.
Okay.
I want it to be a mess. I want it to be like there's stuff in there that I'm going to be able to pull out of, and it takes a little while to get it. Like and this is just the way I work. But what I see too much of is this, and we've discussed. Everybody understands what I think about, or what how I define Viscom as opposed to kind of what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that Viscom stuff is great. It's great for certain things. But if you ever look at people who are straight up Viscom people, they usually can't draw organics. They usually can't draw people. They draw, it basically, Viscom to me is a little bit, and I love Viscom and all that, but it's a little bit like a sketch technical drawing language. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they're always building things out of this and building out of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's going to tend to sort of leave you in a very mechanical drawing thing. And I think that I want you guys to have that skill set, and I want you to have this more illustrative skill set. Does that make sense? I think that makes you light years more employable. Okay. And and when you go in, if you got really bitchin' drawings in your portfolio or your sketchbook or whatever, I mean, people geek out on it, man. They like that stuff. You know, they want you on the team. They want, you know, if you're trying to get on a good team, they want really great people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And everybody, I mean, when I first went to Imagineering, so I was around all these guys who were just insanely talented. And every time I'd see them, I'd go, hey, how do you do that? And almost every one of them would go, oh, here, sit down. I'll show you how to do it. Because they just want to geek out on it. They just want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever said like, dude, I don't want to do that. You sit there for an hour with them and eat lunch and they're showing you all this cool stuff. You know what I mean? People are into this stuff. It pulls them in. Not just from like the perspective of like, wow, you're really good at what you do, but from the perspective of you're really good at it technically, but you're also an artist, and we like looking at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So you want to have a nice rounded skill set, you know, which if you really break it down, drawing, painting, design, right? Because then you understand color, brushwork, all that stuff. Drawing, obviously, that's fundamental for painting or anything else. It's also fundamental for design, right? You can do those three things. Now you can go into Frank's 3D class and start killing it in there because you understand the basic idea of shape, language, and how to translate those shapes into something visual. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This stuff all overlaps on each other, okay? Or not just Frank's class, like, you know, hand sculpting or whatever, 3D modeling, ZBrush, where you're doing more organic forms, like all that kind of stuff. It's all the same stuff. You know what I mean? Different tools, same stuff. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
But it's not really related to people. It's more like clouds, drawing clouds with pencil. But I don't know if you're able to demonstrate it like digitally.
Let me write it down. I'll just do a quick tutorial on that. Is that all right? There's like 4 or 5 ways to handle it, or probably more. What do you say? Clouds?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, could you add Emily again?
Oh, hang on, I gotta switch. I don't know why it doesn't let me, wait.
Excuse me?
We should get kicked. There it is. Okay. What else?
Hello. Hi. Mike?
Yeah.
I remember you said that you had a handout for strategic folds. Could you upload?
Didn't I give you guys that?
I don't know.
No, I think I did my other class. I didn't give you guys that, right?
No.
Hopefully I've got it on my home computer. Okay, I'll find it.
All right, thank you.
And I'll post it. Okay, so what am I posting? I'm going to post the drapery thing. There was something else I said I was going to post. What was it? Does anybody remember?
Clouds?
Oh, the Peter Ellenshaw documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Watch that documentary, man. I'm telling you, this guy's a monster.
What's his name?
It's a good lesson in skill set, taking you into places you never even thought, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You never want to get a phone call from a job that pays, I don't know, $100,000, $120,000 a year, and you have to go, no, I don't know how to do that, thanks. You know, you want to do that? You don't want to do that. Anytime a good job comes up, man, you want to go, yeah, I can do that. Even if you're not sure what the hell it is, okay? But you just know, like, I got the skill set, I can do that. Then you go and meet with them, you find out, and you go, yeah, I could do this. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Mike?
Go ahead.
Mike, are you going to go over our previous sketches before we went into the tutorial?
Like on location?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm doing right now, and I think we're getting closer now, is I'm just sort of trying to get us recalibrated because we went offline, or we went online.
Right.
Yes, I will go over some of those too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I might do those in a YouTube video or something,
Mhm.
because I want to keep us now moving forward. Okay.
Right.
So I'll probably I started doing some of them yesterday. Actually, I already did some.
Mhm.
So I'll probably just every now and then I'll jump on there, and then I'll have a video that's, I don't know, 20 minutes long or half hour long, and I'll put that up.
Okay.
What else?
I have a question. How about maybe further on down the line, you'd spoken about scanning in images and then splashing some color, painting them up. I don't know that process.
Digitally or traditionally? Traditionally, probably, right?
Well, I don't know it digitally. Like I could scan these in, but I haven't worked with a tablet or anything like that. So when you take an original sketch and then you want to go in and paint over it digitally, could you go over a little bit of that sometime in the future?
That's not even a big, yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
Scan, catch, and color, right? Actually, I'll take some, because I've been doing a lot of stupid coronavirus drawings and stuff like that. I'll take one of those.
Okay.
And there's 2 ways to do that. I'll probably do both, like you mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a quick, you're just talking about a quick splash of color. That's easy.
Yes.
And then maybe if I get a chance, I'll go down and go, here's where I would take it a little further. Okay.
Okay.
But I'll start off with just that, like, here's some simple color stuff. Okay.
Hey Mike, where are we uploading the like the other images we did on site? Where are we uploading those?
Just upload them into, well, you guys already uploaded a lot of those, right?
All I can see is the people sketch.
Oh, because I downloaded all of them.
Oh, okay. So do you want me to just put it in the people sketch, or?
Did you already put them in there?
No, I didn't.
Oh, how come they're so late?
I just thought we were doing the people sketches first.
Okay, that's fine. Just put them in the regular folder, not the the people folders in a folder. Put the sketching for animators and illustrators poster or folder. I keep saying poster.
Okay,
Yeah,
so just put it in there. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering why my folder isn't there, even though I kind of uploaded it before.
Just so you guys know, at some point I'm gonna when I have all those things in there, especially like before a class, when we're gonna get together for a class, I'm gonna download all those things and I'm gonna empty the folder out. So if your stuff disappears, it's fine. I have it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
which is why I want them in there a half an hour before class, so I know that I have everybody's stuff and I can just go through everybody's stuff. Okay?
Oh, okay. I see.
By the way, this is all recorded. Okay? So I will put this up probably today. So whenever we're doing this, you don't need to take notes or anything. It's all recorded. What I usually do is just cut off the beginning and the end, you know, when there's like a lot of people just coming into the room and all that, blah, blah, blah. Or anything. Yeah. Other than that, I'll just put it up as is. And I'll probably actually just leave it up for the rest of the term. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I'm going
thank
to try,
you.
I think I already told you guys, I'm going to try, I think I already told you guys, I'm going to try and do a virtual little field trip thing. And I think that'll cover the landscape questions I had, Susie's question about, you know, the hillside and all that kind of stuff. It should answer all that stuff. But also it'll open a discussion because whatever it doesn't answer on Saturday, we go over that. Okay, so whatever I put online up until Saturday is all fodder for Saturday. Okay, make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. And thank you guys. You guys are doing a good job. And you've been really, oh, let me do one more thing. You've been really good about this and I appreciate it. Hang on. I want to screen cap the who's here. Okay.
May I have a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that was the case, may I have to upload myself right now?
What?
No, the sketching, because okay, well.
It's too late now.
Okay.
You got to be on time. From here on out, you guys, let's be on time. It's a half an hour before. I think that's super reasonable. Make sense?
All right. Yeah.
So
okay.
Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, just to be clear about the old sketches, the old on location sketches, do you want those uploaded anywhere?
I have them. Because you guys uploaded a lot of those already, right?
Okay. I didn't upload mine from
Yes.
Shoreline Village.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, what I want next week, I mean, I want more people sketches based on what we've just talked about. Okay. So whatever, you know, you guys, I think, are seeing, it's a lot of it's the same issues. It's clarity of shape, simplification, and interpretation of shape language, right? Like we talked about with the beard, like we talked about with hair, all that sort of thing. I want to see that now pushed forward. I want to get at least, let's look at it. I want to get at least, let's get at least 10 pages of that. Okay. Just people now. It's just people, not all heads, they don't all have to be full body, a variety. Okay. And don't do like one on a page and one on a page and one on, you know, do them, you know, various sizes and things like that. Don't, and then some of these you're going to get, hopefully, you're going to get pretty warmed up on. And you might have one that's a little bigger and you want to kind of flesh it out a little more. That's cool. I just don't want to have everything like a finished out drawing. Does that make sense? We've got to learn this simplification idea. Okay? Okay, you guys. I'm out.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Converse with me during the week.
Okay, bye.